It is 00:00. And you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Best of Bond with Wubs and Tylord, your hosts. And this is episode 12 already. This is one we've been looking forward to since we started this show. I know this is Wubs' favorite. We're going to be talking about On Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969, directed by Peter Hunt himself. You've been hearing us praise Peter Hunt for the past 4 or 5 movies. He did the editing in the first movies, but now he's actually here to direct this film. And not only do we have a new director, but we have a new James Bond actor himself. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we're reviewing On Her Majesty's Secret Service this week, and I know I'm hyped about this. I can only imagine how hyped you are, Wubs. How you doing, buddy?
I can hardly contain myself over here. Like you said, I've been looking forward to this one from our very first episode. This is the ultimate James Bond adventure to me, the ultimate film. So many things just peak in this movie for the series to me, and so I've been looking forward to it the whole time. And the Blu-ray definitely lived up to expectations, I'd say.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. I remember before we were talking about how it looks sort of dark on the VHS and DVD. I could see it a lot better now. Like it looks like how I always wanted it to look on the HD Blu-ray.
Right.
And I from watching the commentaries, from what I understand, like it was intentionally supposed to look sort of dark because they were always filming around a certain time during the day where it's sort of dark and some with the shadows and all that. So I think it was intended to look like that, but it's just so much easier to see it now. Because I did watch it on both the DVD and the Blu-ray, and I could see it's a lot easier to see, a lot more crisp on the new format.
Yeah, definitely.
Great stuff, though.
I noticed
like,
the same.
Yeah, and like you were saying, this is like the peak of Bond here. Although it's not quite as epic as the last one we talked about, You Only Live Twice. It's sort of the quality of it seems just as good or maybe better, although it's a couple million cheaper than the last one. But of course you have to account for that big volcano layer in the last one, and of course Sean Connery was in that. I don't really know how much they paid Lazenby compared to Sean, but the just something about the quality of this movie is just like unparalleled with I remember Peter Hunt kept mentioning he liked old school, like 50s cinema, like classy, like beautiful frame shots and everything, and the lighting and everything just looks so crisp in this movie. Yeah, great. A pleasure to see this movie. I can't wait to talk about this. Yeah, but I know this is your favorite movie, and so I kind of wanted to ask, what was your thoughts on this movie and your history before our most recent viewing? I know you could go on for days like that, but maybe just give us your history with this movie and why you like it so much and where you first saw it. And
yeah, I'm sure it was one that we got from the local library, because that was how I saw most of the older films. Really, like all of the majority of the Connerys and Roger Moores. This was mixed in there somewhere, I'm sure. I think we actually had it duplicated at one point, and or we probably had like a VHS recorder or something, recorded it just so we didn't have to keep getting it out from the library. But that was how much, like, there were a few of those we did that with, I think, like some of our favorites, or I did it at some point, and it's hard to remember now, but I think that's what we did. And
yeah,
it so it's like I can't even tell you the first time I saw it or what I thought of it the
Mhm.
first time because I just don't remember. There were so many of them. And back then they
Mhm.
all sort of blended together when I was a kid. The biggest difference
Yeah.
being the actor. But I do
Mhm.
remember specifically, even when I was a kid, I thought Lazenby was a really great actor in the role. I thought
Mhm.
he was really good in the role, and just this one stood out so much because it was different. It was his only. This is
Mhm.
still to this day, the guy had one film in this series.
Mhm.
Now, of course, there's
Yeah.
David Niven and in Casino
Yeah.
Royale, and that those sorts of one-off parody things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as the main
Yeah.
series goes, Lazenby's the only actor who had just the one film, and in my
Yeah.
opinion, left us all wanting more. At least me.
Yeah.
I definitely, we talked about that when we were talking about what would our
Yeah.
dream film in the franchise be, and my
Yeah.
dream film was George Lazenby reprising his role in Diamonds Are Forever, doing a true
Yeah.
revenge story follow-up to On Her
Oh
Majesty's
yeah.
Secret Service, with Telly Savalas
Yes.
again as Blofeld, right?
Yeah.
Would have been
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Yes.
So,
And I know he did have a 6 or 7 movie contract that he just sort of
wow.
threw in the trash.
Yeah, I forgot it was
Oh
that
man.
many. I
Or
forgot it was
or
that
his
many.
his his hippie agent talked him into being a hippie and he didn't uh, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so
But you asked
yeah, for
how I felt about the movie or why it was my
yeah.
favorite, and I think that just over time, watching these movies over and over, because I saw these when
Mhm.
I was very young as a kid, and I
Mhm.
just saw the whole series many, many times as I got older,
Yeah.
and I think it was just the repeat viewing thing of eventually realizing, wow, this one, I just always come back to this one more,
Mhm.
and there's something about the way that it's filmed, the plot, the story, the
Mhm.
characters, like all of it. It just works so well,
Mhm.
and it's a little more epic than the others in a unique
Mhm.
way. Like you said, it's not because of blowing a budget on a crazy
Mhm.
lair like they did in You Only Live
Mhm.
Twice, or the underwater fight sequences in Thunderball. There's nothing quite at that
Mhm.
level in terms of the action, and yet the action that is there is so great. The ski chase sequence
Yes.
is amazing, and
Mhm.
the final fight sequence is awesome. I mean, it's a helicopter assault on top of a
Mhm.
mountain in the Swiss Alps. Like,
Yeah.
that just, I mean, just saying that is so cool. Like, like there's
Right.
nothing about that isn't awesome. For like a
Yeah.
a big climax to an action film.
Yeah.
Um, and
And it's yep.
and it's off the books, right? It
Yeah, it's
happens. It's
crazy how much of
totally,
that. Yeah.
he's doing that unofficially. So that adds
Yeah.
to the excitement.
Yeah, and I think this is the first time he sort of really went rogue, right?
Yep.
He kind of went rogue twice in the same movie.
Yeah. Right.
I know that's like a normal thing these days. Like every damn movie he's going rogue, but that was very different back then.
The other thing that we have with this film, I was thinking of the build up. We talked about
Yeah.
how, I think in our Thunderball episode, we talked about how
Hmm.
the stakes kept getting higher with each movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the last two, we had a nuclear threat of one or two cities from the
Hmm.
bombs that Spectre had stolen. That was in
Yeah.
Thunderball, and then we had the threat of nuclear war, really, through You Only Live
Yeah.
Twice.
Hmm.
They were trying to get the Russians and the Americans to destroy the world with all
Yeah.
the nuclear weapons. Big, obviously that's the biggest stakes that we've had. But in a way, this plot is at that level because the
Yeah.
the the level of destruction that would happen from Blofeld's
Hmm.
plan, as far as
Yeah.
destroying the fertility of all of these different species of plants and animals,
Yeah.
would have led to mass extinction and
Yes.
death and starvation.
Yeah.
It would have been a longer process than nuclear fallout, but it would have
Yeah.
been just as horrific in a different
Hmm.
way. And
Yes.
in my opinion, what's so fascinating about this plot too is, and what makes it kind of on another level, it's not political, it's personal. Like that,
Yeah.
it's a more personal. Like, this is Blofeld versus humanity.
Yeah.
It's not even Blofeld versus the Americans and the
Hmm.
Russians and all that.
Yeah.
It's much more insidious in many ways. Like the
Yeah.
fact that anyone would come up with a plan like this diabolical, this evil,
Yeah.
is horrifying, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at it,
Yes.
and you can watch the movie. Telly Savalas is great as the character and
Hmm.
everything. This is a
Hmm.
sick plot. Like, this is
Yeah.
this
It
is the
is.
sort of stuff where you just makes, if you're like you have any sense
Yeah.
of decency, like, it's disgusting that anyone would even think of something like
Yeah.
this to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a little more sophisticated, in my opinion, than the plot of You Only
Yeah.
Live Twice. I mean, nuclear fallout, trying to
Right.
cause World War III, eh,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, it's sort of it's terrible, of course, but it's very
Yeah.
obvious, right? Oh yeah, get the Russians and the
Yes.
Americans to kill each other. That's very
Yeah.
easy. This is so much more like he's got to develop the virus, or the agent that destroys the
Yeah.
fertility. He's got the women that
Yeah.
have to go and distribute it all over the world.
Yeah.
They're all
And there's the yeah.
hypnotized and programmed to
Yeah,
do
there's the
it.
brainwash.
The
Yeah, the
brainwashing,
brainwashing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so creepy, really, by
Yeah, it is
comparison.
creepy.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, this movie was kind of more grounded than the others, and there's not really that sense of like uncanny valley, like that word surrealism, like a lot of Bond movies have. Other than that, and I think that hits
mhm,
really hard. That it almost feels like a sci-fi movie or something. How
it
creepy this
does.
plot is.
Hmm.
Because other than that, this movie's very grounded, and like to say, it's a very personal movie. Unlike the last one, like we were talking, Sean did fine in the last one, but it was more plot driven, and we didn't really see much out of Sean.
Right.
But this movie's all about Bond. Like, it's very personal with Bond, and it's very personal with Blofeld, and it's very personal with
Tracy.
Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very personal movie, a very more character driven.
I think that may be fundamentally why it's my favorite, because I don't
Yeah,
think that you get more character development for James Bond in any other film. Like, this one has the most
no,
character development of all of his
yeah,
films by far.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think that it is more like you said, Peter Hunt talking about he liked the old films from the 50s,
hmm,
that had to be more plot driven and more
yeah,
cinematic in a way, just because they didn't
yeah,
have the special effects and the things that they could do even
hmm,
by the 60s, right? The 50s were not the
yeah,
60s in cinema at all.
no,
It was
no,
still very primitive for
yes,
action films by comparison.
hmm,
Just that one decade, it's
hmm,
amazing the changes that happened in that one
yeah,
decade in film. So
yeah,
just they had they but and that really comes through in this movie because it is so focused on the plot and the
hmm,
characters.
yes,
Um,
yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah. Yeah, with me, the my history was this. I think the first time I saw it, I was very, very young, and it was in the midst of watching all the other Bond movies, which I loved. And I remember this was on television one night, and my dad was watching it, and I was big into Roger Moore and Sean Connery, and I'm like, wow, who's this guy? That's not Sean Connery or Roger Moore. And my dad was all about him, like, yeah, this guy is awesome. Like, I like this guy. I like him more than Roger Moore. Like, he thought Roger Moore was like posh and prissy, and he looked more like manly, like Sean Connery.
right.
And he says, and he saw this guy's awesome, and I go, I want to see Sean Connery
That
and Roger Moore, and I thought it was kind of boring because you know how the first hour and a half of the movie is just very it's not so much slow, but it's all like plot and dialogue for like the first hour and
Yep.
a half.
Yeah,
So I
there's a
thought it was
ton of
boring.
buildup.
Like, yeah, yeah, it's obviously not, but I thought that at the time, and then later on, I started to like it a little more. And I remember the first date I went out on with my wife. We went to Blockbuster, and they have the dollar old movies you can rent. We rented UHF with Weird Al. We rented Clash of the Titans, and we rented this, like three movies I love And I first time my wife ever saw it because she was into Bond movies, but I don't think she had ever seen this one.
Wow.
And we watched it, and that's like when we first started to get a little romantic, my wife and I. So this movie has a special place in my life,
Wow. That's awesome.
Majesty's. But
Well, it's a very romantic movie.
yeah, and then yeah, so by then I was really digging it, and then I think maybe 10 years ago or so, I remember I was at my in-laws' house, and it was playing on that on what's his name, Robert Rodriguez has that cable channel called Del
Oh,
Rey. Have you ever seen that?
yeah, yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah.
That it just plays old like cult or grindhouse movies or cult classics, just all day long. It has like a lot of my favorite movies they play on there, but they were playing this movie, and I was just watching that on just at my in-laws' house. And I was watching this movie, and I was super intrigued. Like, wow, this might be like the best Bond movie. Like, it just hit me right there how good the movie was. And I watched that whole thing, like, it just mesmerized by it at my in-laws' house when it was on television.
Right.
And from then, like, I just love this movie, and I can't get enough of it. Um,
It had
and it almost,
also
yeah,
the more personal feeling from the music, right? Because it's not only do you get
yes,
the great Barry score, but you get Louis
yeah,
Armstrong
Louis
singing "We Have
Armstrong,
All the
yes,
Time in the World," probably one of the most romantic
yes,
songs ever written.
yes. Yeah, I know
Uh,
that was John Barry's favorite Bond song, and he had a nice little heartwarming story about that in the
mhm,
commentary about how he met with Louis Armstrong, and that was the last song he ever recorded, and he
right.
thanked John Barry, like, oh, thank you for letting me sing the song, and it brought a tear to his eye, John Barry's eye. And it was kind of
Mm,
ironic, like we have all the time in the world, and it was right before he passed away.
mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep, and then
and there's also that Christmas song that's your favorite Christmas song.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, do you la 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 la?
Yep. Do you know how Christmas
I
trees are grown? Right. By
yeah,
Nina.
but what all do they need? All right, do you know how Christmas cards are made? They need greetings and pictures, snowflakes and no raindrops and sunshine. Uh, um, I can't think of them all. There was like seven or
There's a
eight
bunch
things
of
in
them.
that song.
Yeah.
Each verse adds like two new things. It's a cute little song.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
song, and it goes so
yeah,
well with the little Christmas village that he's
yeah,
being chased through.
yeah.
That whole
There's
sequence.
that one song. There's another little song playing in the Christmas village, but I can't ever track it down. You hear it like when he first gets to the village. There's a song playing. I think it might be a John Barry composition, but I've always
Hmm.
wanted to find that song. Like right when he gets down to the village and after all the fights, he just threw the two guys off the cliff, and he gets to the village and he's all nervous.
Right,
You
right.
remember there was a song playing in the background, sort of like in the village, like it's a really cool, like a dreamy sounded like Christmas song, but I can't ever find that. I don't know if it's a John Barry composition or what.
Well, I've got the vinyl, so I will check that
Mm-hmm.
out after we talk, see if I can
Oh,
find the
okay.
song.
Oh, okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
Yeah,
soundtrack.
but great. Yeah, but this movie, all in all, like you said, it's like an old. The first half of the movie's like it feels like a '50s movie,
Yeah.
but made in the '60s. And it just sort of the pace like that, where old movies were very slow but
Hmm.
intriguing. There was
Yeah.
like a half hour, like an hour and a half of that, and then the last 45 minutes of the movie feels like an '80s action movie.
Right. Everything is so fast
Yeah,
right
and
at
there's
the
so
end.
much fast-paced editing. Even the part where they're taking the car out to the log cabin, it almost reminds me of like Evil Dead. Like there's so much like cuts and like oh we're out of gas, and then like they all get it reminds me, it's just like so much fast pace. It's so fast the second half of the movie.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very, very quick. 'Cause, I mean, you really go from once he
yeah,
gets to the ski chase, leaving
yeah,
Piz Gloria, it's
yeah,
super fast through the end of the movie. You know, the only
Yeah,
pause is
yeah. Once
really
he
like
escapes,
when
yeah,
they're in the barn together, and then when he's, you know,
yes,
he's
that's
got to
it.
get
Yeah, that's
Draco to join him for the final assault. Those are like the only pauses up until the end.
yeah,
At that point, like
yeah,
it's crazy how fast it
yeah.
moves.
Yeah, but it does feel it feels like the other Bond movies in most respects, but something about it is so different. It almost feels like an Italian movie or something like the way they do like the
Mm,
zooming camera shots and
mm,
something about it feels like because I love like those like spaghetti and or grindhouse movies and they usually are like that too. They're slow for the first hour and then the second half is just balls to the wall.
yep,
Um,
yep, very
it
much
feels
so.
like that, and then even yeah, there was yeah. It just feels so unique this movie compared to the other ones.
Well, you know, maybe
Yeah,
Italian cinema influenced this to some extent. There's a lot of, I mean, part of it's in Spain, and Draco obviously is.
yeah, in Portugal, yeah.
Draco's
I think he's an
Italian, right?
Italian actor. Yeah,
Yeah, he's an
yeah,
Italian
he's an
actor.
Italian actor. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
and of course
what's
Tracy
his
is
name?
supposed to be half Italian, being his daughter.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Or is he Portuguese or is he Italian?
I'm not 100%. I thought he was Italian. I thought I had
Okay,
read
because
about that,
I
but
know
I could be wrong.
the actor is Italian. He might be Italian too, but he lives in Portugal.
Okay, yeah, right.
Because they have like the Portuguese style bull fighting where they don't kill the bull.
Oh, okay. Was that
And that was
actually in
Portugal, and that was
Portugal then?
yeah. I think that all that beginning, the casino and everything was in Portugal.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it was Spain. All right.
Hmm.
Hang on, let me look up
Okay,
Draco.
it might be, but okay,
I'll just look
yeah,
him up here and
yeah,
see.
yeah. We'll get to Draco in a bit, but yeah, yeah. He's another one. Like that actor is so good. His name is Gabriel Frizzetti,
Yep.
and can you imagine that guy is? He was only 44 in that movie. Like
What?
I'm 45. I look like a little soft baby. That guy's 45 in the movie.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
That's a man right there.
Yeah, right? I thought he was
Yeah,
like 60.
I guess he's only like 13. He's actually only 13 years. Yeah, me too. He's only like 13 years older than Diana Rigg.
Wow.
Yeah,
This says that he was born
that's
in.
a
Oh, this is
stud
the
right
character.
there.
Okay. In the movie, he's supposed to be 50. Like the
Yeah,
character is
yeah.
supposed to be 50. Okay, maybe they made him look a little
Okay.
older. That might be what it was.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let's
Maybe,
see.
yeah. Yeah, because you see him in other movies and he doesn't look quite like them.
Right.
Yeah.
His nationality is French Corsican, actually. French and Corsican.
Okay, yeah, okay. And I've never really seen him in any other movies, but he's so classic looking. He's such a good actor.
Well, that's the character. I'm looking at Draco. Draco's nationality is French and
Yeah.
Corsican. I don't
Oh,
know.
Draco. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't. I'm not
oh,
sure about
French.
Gabriel
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Oh, so he's not Portuguese. Okay.
Yeah. Let me look him up here,
Okay.
because I just want to check that because I really thought he was Italian.
Yeah, he must be. Yeah, he must be
Okay. Yeah, he was Italian
yeah, he
according
must be
to
an Italian gangster, huh?
JamesBondFandom.com.
Oh,
He
right on.
was
Excellent.
Italian.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Wow, 160
Okay,
credits
yeah.
to his name. He
Okay,
he
that
was in
makes
a ton
sense.
of
Yeah.
stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah. 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 Great stuff. And then, but this movie, a lot of differences with it. It starts off with a gun barrel opening sequence, and it's a little bit different. Few differences. Like we get a new Bond. Not only is there a new guy in the gun barrel, but there's a few differences, a few changes. It goes back to the producer's titles on the gun barrel, like it did in a Doctor No. Remember that the dot goes by, and then it says Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli presents. So that's a little bit different than the other ones. And then the music has all the synthesizers. That's really cool. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't that would have sounded so like modern at the time. It had like the Moog synthesizers. Sounded a lot
hmm
different than the previous gun barrel openings.
Yeah, John Barry was
And
not
then
afraid
we see George.
to use new instruments.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that sound. That's probably one of my favorite gun barrel like compositions.
Oh yeah.
You kind of hear it at the end of the movie too. That same little tune. And
Right.
then we see George walk in, and he looks studly, and he has the hat on just like Sean and Bob Simmons did.
Yep.
And then he drops to his knee with a unique pose. Like every actor has a unique pose, and George drops down to his knee with a cool little gun barrel stance when he shoots.
Yep.
So what do you think about the gun barrel?
Yeah, I think it's great, right? I love that he still uses the hat. That's another more
Mm-hmm.
old-fashioned pose
Mm-hmm.
for an agent or any kind of
Mm-hmm.
professional gentleman. It's cool that I mean this is probably the
Yeah.
last time we have a hat, right? I think Roger Moore. I don't even know. Does Connery even
Yeah.
have one in Diamonds Are Forever?
No, the only time we see Roger with one is he throws his hat up on the hat rack and For Your Eyes Only. I think it's like a
Right.
throwback to the older movies.
But I mean, in the gun barrel,
Yeah.
did Connery use a hat in the gun barrel
Oh,
for
oh no,
Diamonds?
Con Connery had the hat, yeah, and because they used just use the
Okay,
same one from Thunderball, and
gotcha.
then Roger never had one. Yeah, Roger
Yeah,
never had a hat. No, none of them had a hat other than George and Sean.
yeah. So I mean, it's cool they still use the hat for that.
Yeah,
His I think gun barrel's probably the most unique of all of them as far as dropping to the
yeah,
knee.
yeah,
I don't think anybody else did that, right?
yeah. I don't think so. Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, and I love that music too. And then it moves right in. We never really see it straight from the gun barrel. It moves right into Universal Exports, or it moves right into Q and M discussing, or Q has some like radioactive lint he's showing him
Yeah.
for it was for like the homing device or something. What was it? The lint he had
Yeah,
that he put into
radioactive
someone's
lint.
pocket.
For
Yeah,
tracking
yeah,
enemy agents, right? Was the idea.
yeah, yeah. That was yeah, and that's pretty a lot like one of the only times we see Q in the movie. But they're like they don't know where 007 is. And then it cuts to Portugal, and he's driving in that cool Aston Martin. What's this? Which style is that?
I think that's still the like 69 DB5. I think it's
Okay,
the same car that
okay,
Connery had. It was just the updated
yeah,
version, as far as I
yeah.
know. I'm not certain about
It's
that.
so cool.
It's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
late 60s, right? You can tell because
yeah,
it's a fastback. So it's that
yeah,
same design as the later 60s, early 70
yeah,
Mustangs. A lot of the sports cars were doing that fastback rear
yeah,
window
yeah,
at the time.
yeah, yeah. And then we get him driving along the coastline of somewhere in Portugal there, and he has his hat on, and
Yep.
we don't see his face. We just see it like shadows, and we see him lighting his cigarette and being cool as ever. Like we know this is Bond, but we haven't seen him yet. And and then here comes the girl in a Mercury Cougar, passes him up, and and then he then he down the road a ways he sees the car stopped there, and then the girl is gone, and he pulls out his scope from his rifle. And I guess that was a certain. There was a couple foreshadowing moments in this movie where it implies Tracy's going to die. One of them is you see the
Mm.
sight on Tracy. He's not pointing the gun at her, but he's looking at her through the scope of his gun, and you see he's checking out Tracy down there in that beautiful dress.
Yep.
Peter Hunt was talking about the tailor or the dressmaker. I think her name was Margie something.
Hmm.
Made all those dresses. Like she actually designed a lot of the clothes and the dresses, like custom made for all the women in this.
Wow.
But she's looking like an angel walking out there, and but I guess that was one of the I can't think of her name right now. I should have written it down, but one of the foreshadowing moments in this movie where the bullet or the rifle sight is on Tracy. Another part in this movie, she's petting during the love montage. She's petting a black cat,
Oh.
which is yeah. And then there was one other moment. I can't think of what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me later. But I know Peter Hunt was saying that he did foreshadow her death with a few little subtle things like that.
Well, I mean, she tries to kill
But
herself in the first scene, so
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. So this girl's very intriguing to Bond. Like this girl, she's like living on the edge. She's always trying to bring harm upon herself, but she's walking out into the ocean, and then Bond realizes this girl's going to kill herself. So being the gentleman he is, he races down there on the sand with Aston Martin. He runs out and he saves her just as she's about to drown herself. And then he carries her back, and this is when we first see our boy here. He lays her down, and she's passed out like she's fainted. And then he wakes her up, and he says, "Good morning. My name is Bond, James Bond." We get a close up of George as the first time as Bond.
yep.
So, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was a great introduction to the character, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
when we did the Best of Bond series, we were talking about our
Mm-hmm.
favorite things from the movies. I think I said this was my favorite
Yeah.
intro, and
Yeah.
I I love the build up to it. How you don't see his face until she sees his face.
Yeah.
I think that's a really
Yeah.
clever filming
Yeah.
technique to introduce the new
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And because up until that point, right, it could have been Connery, and you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it gives that vibe, kind of, and
Yeah.
um, the way that they did I wanted to mention the music for
Yeah.
when he was in the car, that very high pitched form of the main theme,
Yeah.
dun, 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 or the
It was
I'm
like the
trying to remember.
synthesizer.
Yeah, it was like a synthesizer version of it. I
Yeah.
believe I'm not a musician, but I believe they
Yeah.
used that same sort of timing for the song, or that high-pitched version of it in the
Yeah.
GoldenEye video game. Like it's very
Dun,
similar.
dun, dun, dun,
Anyway, there's
dun, dun. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know for
Yeah.
when they're doing parts of the game, that I think it goes
Yeah.
back to that movie. Now maybe Eric
Yeah.
Serra, did his own version of it probably, but it's like I think that
Yeah.
that high-pitched version of the
Yeah.
song, goes. That's where it comes
Yeah.
from. Was originally like
Yeah,
that
I think
intro right
there's
there.
the first time we heard that. Yeah, it was so usually it's like the electric guitar or the bass, the bing, 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 bing.
Right.
But it was that high pitched synthesizer. It sounded really cool.
And because it's the
Yeah.
synthesizer and that sound, to me, it's like I think of
Hmm.
it as more of a techie type theme, right? Like it's not techno,
Yeah.
obviously, but it's closer
Yeah.
to techno than anything else we've heard so far for the
Yeah.
series. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just
And
think
then
that's kind
when
of cool. It makes it more modern
yeah.
sounding.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably my favorite soundtrack. I know I was hyping up Thunderball, but up to this point, this is my favorite soundtrack by far.
Hmm.
I like how it transitions from playing the Bond song, and then when it shows Tracy walking into the ocean, it goes into that more of a dreamy style.
Hmm.
When you see her walking into the water, I love that little cue right there.
And
The
it's totally seamless too.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
amazing
yeah,
how well
yeah, yeah,
that transition flows.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, John Barry
yeah,
is such a good composer, and the editing
yeah,
that they did for that was so good.
mm-hmm,
To where like you don't
yeah,
even you have to be having a conversation like this, I feel like, for us to even really notice the transition, because it's just so
yeah,
seamless. I'd never even thought about it before you
yeah,
just said that, but you're right. It's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. And then we get Draco's heavies are in there. We don't know who they are at this point, but as he rescues her, here comes some thugs with a knife up to Tracy and a gun to Bond. We don't know who they are. We assume they're some kind of baddies, some kind of henchmen. We don't realize they're Draco's men bringing Tracy back. Um, but they looks like they take Tracy away, and it looks like when the one guy's about to kill Bond, he puts him in a boat, and then we get an awesome fight scene. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, like that kicks off one of the most physical scenes I think in all
Yeah,
of the films as far as a fight
yeah,
goes. It is just, and it's so fast with the sped up film. Bond
Yeah.
throws the harpoon or the hook into the guy's face like right
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Gun goes off, misses him, and
Yeah.
then before you know it, they're fighting in the shore as the waves are coming
Yeah.
in, hitting them, like just throwing their
Yeah.
bodies into each other. Like it is
Yeah.
just, it's a
Yeah.
crazy how brutal that fight was. I'm sure like the filming of it must have been exhausting too. Like
Yeah.
if it was half as intense as it looked. Um,
Yeah.
and I didn't hear about that. Did you hear specifically? Did they talk about the stunts for that?
I know they were saying George was really like George almost choreographed a lot of it, and they were out on the beach fighting, and Peter Hunt said, "No, get into the water. That's where all the splashing and it'll look more action packed. Go into the water." And then George's like, I don't want to go in the water. It's cold." He's like, "No, go in the water." But they went in there, and then you could see that they I don't know if the stuntmen were doing that or George, but they were pulling off some really good judo throws. Like they were doing like ippon seonagi and like hip throws and shoulder throws. They were tossing each other around like it was like a judo class out in the water. They were tossing each other around.
They both get flipped over at least once, like like all the way, get just flipped over the other guy's shoulder, right?
Yeah.
And
the one guy does a drop kick, and they're like, then he's suffocating the one guy in the water.
Yep.
And Peter Hunt was saying that was a second unit direct spot. That was actually at Pinewood. They had a tray with sand and water, and that's where he was shoving his face into to suffocate that guy.
Mm-hmm. They made it look really good.
Yeah, it looked good. Yeah, seamless. Like I would have never. I thought that was just at the beach, and then. Yeah, this guy's super physical. We'll talk about George here in just a second, but I think his physique and his athleticism is like just on par with Connery.
Yeah, I think so. I think that fight, like right at the beginning, established that, and I'll bet that's part of the reason they did it, right? Because it was they had already established, all right, he's pretty smooth or whatever. As far as the intro went, but then they put him into this very physical fight where he's got to fight like three guys, and it was pretty great,
and I and I didn't realize before when I was a kid that those are always the same three thugs throughout the whole movie. The one guy, they meet him up again at the casino in the morning with the big black dude. It's always those same three guys throughout the movie. The one guy is the one bigger guy was the guy that got all of the surgery knives thrown at him in Diamonds Are Forever. It was that same stunt man. Remember?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, but I noticed those same heavies throughout the whole movie, and they even help out at the end with the raid on Piz Gloria.
Yep.
Yeah, but then after he beats up all those guys, he does like WWF slams one guy and then drops a boat on him, and then as this is going on, Tracy goes and steals his Aston Martin and races it back up to the road. And then she gets in her Cougar and drives away as she leaves her high heels on the beach. And then we see George walk up and grab the shoes, and he picks them up. And then what does he say?
He looks at the camera and says, "This never happened to the other fella."
Yeah. And then it goes right into the opening title sequence. But I think this is a good time to talk about George, the actor George Lazenby. And that line right there is signifying this is a new actor that plays Bond, although it's obvious, and they didn't have to do that. But it's just a little nod to the audience that this is a new guy. Like they had to throw in some little joke or something. And I didn't realize this, but I thought maybe there is another meaning to this. I was always trying to like rationalize this scene and try to defend it.
Right.
but I think it could mean like Prince Charming, like
Mm-hmm.
remember you were saying it's like or like Cinderella, like he picks up the shoes and he looks at her run away,
Yep.
and then he says this never happened to the other fellow. He could have been talking about Prince Charming, but it also is sort of a pun, like he's meaning like a Sean Connery as well. So I think it
Absolutely.
works good.
I think it's
Yeah,
a funny. I think it's the double meaning is
yeah,
definitely there,
yeah, yeah,
and I love that they actually did it. Something to acknowledge
yeah,
it on the nose, sort of a fourth
yeah,
wall break. I
yeah,
mean, it is a fourth wall break, and
yeah. It is. Yeah.
it's that this is the sort of thing I feel like would never happen now in film. If
No,
it was a
no,
major
no.
studio doing a movie like this,
Yeah.
they
Unless
would
it was
say like,
like,
oh, it's
unless
too
it was
cheesy,
Deadpool.
or
Yeah,
they would view it as too risky or on the nose
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. Oh, it's not. And to me, it's like, no, it's hilarious and
yeah,
it's awesome, right? It's like, of
yeah,
course. It made perfect sense, and it's just this timeless moment that has never
yeah,
happened in another Bond film. No other
yeah.
actor has done that to this day.
No,
Probably never will at this point, because, like I
no,
said,
yeah,
studios don't take risks anymore, not like they used to.
yeah,
And
yeah.
because of that, look at us. We're talking about it. What
Mm-hmm.
50 years later?
Yep,
It's
yep,
something that sticks in our mind. Is like this is
yeah,
such a unique moment in this series.
yeah, yeah. And then I think maybe its bad reception maybe prevented Roger or the other guys from doing something like that.
Yeah,
But
probably.
what Peter Hunt was saying was it kind of fourth wall breaking, and it takes you out of the movie for a second, and he said it wouldn't have worked if they just went into another scene, like he went straight to the casino, but it goes right
Right.
into the titles,
Yeah, that's
and
why
so
it
that what makes
works.
it work, like you're going out of the movie and you're going into the titles, so that it works perfectly.
And it's great that they did
Yeah,
it with the titles, because the titles are this sort of
yeah,
dreamy, larger than life sequence
yeah,
in all of the films. They're
yeah,
the high fantasy of
yeah,
all of them,
yeah,
sort of summarized into
yeah,
a larger than life song and all of Maurice Bender's
yeah,
titles and all of that.
yeah,
So it was perfect. I love that they
yeah.
actually did it. Just as a fan of the
Hmm.
series, I
Hmm.
get why some people don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not. It takes you out of
Uh-huh.
the moment or whatever. But to me, I just think it was a hilarious
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
to establish. Okay, this is a
Yeah.
new actor in this
Hmm.
role, this very masculine role,
Hmm.
and he's not afraid to make a joke.
Hmm.
Right. That to me, it just said that he had more
Yeah.
confidence. Right. It makes him seem more confident than I think
Yeah.
he would have seemed without it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
do something
I
like
mean,
that and
yep.
then do the whole film after it.
Yeah.
It's I love it.
Yeah. And that's yeah, we'll get into George right now. So while you mention that confidence he has, and Peter Hunt mentioned this in the commentary, he has like an air of confidence, George Lazenby, and he wanted to capture that on film. He wanted to capture that natural confidence that George had in real life, like on film. So he didn't want to discourage him or distract him with like acting or like coaching or whatever. So he wanted to capture that on film, and I think he did because this guy is confidence. Like he's on the level of Connery, like the way he moves and the way he walks and the way he carries himself.
Absolutely.
Um, he almost he almost seems like Connery. I know George kind of wanted to do his own thing because he wanted to be his own different Bond, but I know that the director and the producers kept saying now Sean would move his eyes like this, or Sean would tilt his head like that. So he would do that, but I think he does it beautifully. Like I can just see Sean Connery, like he's pretty much just Sean Connery with a George Lazenby deep fake on. Like some of those points, he just seems exactly like how Sean Connery would have carried himself in a certain situation.
Sure.
I don't know if you feel that same way, but I think this guy, like for never acting before, this guy just must have some like natural God given talent.
No, I agree, and I think a big
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
that comes from him being so fit going into the role, right?
yeah,
Like he's in obviously in good shape, very strong guy,
yeah,
and I think that it wasn't too hard for him probably to take direction and do the things he needed to do
yeah,
to get like the suave factor, right? From his natural
Yeah.
confidence and physicality. So it worked well. This is
Yeah.
I think maybe
Yeah.
the other reason I like Lazenby in a way is I sort of view we think of James Bond as this larger than life Superman sort of character, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe watching Lazenby do it, it brings it down to earth a little more, and it's sort of like, okay, like
Yeah.
any guy could be James Bond, you know.
Yeah.
That's not to take
Yeah,
anything
you're
away
right.
from
Yeah.
Lazenby, but it's a little more like it's a little
Yeah.
more natural for him, I feel like, than it was for Connery. I feel
Yeah.
Connery starting out was, if you watch him in Doctor No and stuff, is a little more stiff, it's a little more
Yeah.
wooden, and
Yeah.
but for Lazenby,
Yeah.
it's like he just naturally moves through this world and
Mm-hmm.
is seems very comfortable with his presence on
Mm-hmm.
screen and everything else. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe that's just his acting. But that's
Yeah.
definitely what comes across, I think, in the film is that yeah, this guy
Oh,
totally
absolutely.
belongs
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks so cool. He's on the same level of cool, like the way he fits into his. You're right, just from being so, like so well built, but just like the way he fits in all of his suits and his little Scottish get up, like
Yeah.
how studly he looked in that. And and he was supposed to, and he was trying to be like some prissy guy, and of course, all
Right.
the women just loved him anyway.
Well,
But
we can talk about
and
that
then
more then,
that
but that's how great he was, right? Like
yeah
the man can wear a
yeah
dress
yeah
and still have this.
yeah
He still is like
yeah
this very masculine presence, right?
yeah. Yeah, the and then I like that suit he had on at the casino at the beginning. It was white.
Hmm.
Remember he had like the all white suit.
Right.
I thought he looked studly in that. I don't know. You ever remember that manga and it was like a anime and it was a video game? You remember Golgo 13? That character Duke Togo. He
I
was
don't
like the
think I ever saw
Japanese
it.
James Bond. He was,
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, I think I do
whenever I
remember
see
that. I do remember
whenever
that. Yeah.
yeah. Whenever I see George in that white suit, he looks like Duke Togo.
That's right.
Like maybe they got the design when they maybe they got the way his hair is and the way he's built and the way he's in that suit and it's maybe
Right.
his sideburns or something. It reminds me of Duke Togo, that anime or manga character. I think
That's
the
fantastic.
Japanese kind of were inspired by Bond to make that character, but I always think of Golgo 13 when I see George in that white suit at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think part
And
of
then
why
yeah.
like Lazenby was in good shape too was I think he was a mechanic in Australia, if I remember correctly. I think he like
Oh, okay.
when he was,
Oh, wow, yeah.
yeah, so that he had like a pretty physical job before he got into doing commercials and
Oh, right
acting and
on,
all
yeah.
that.
Oh, wow. Wow, another blue collar guy, huh?
Yeah, right. And that's another thing that
Wow.
adds
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
whole
he
thing
was a
of
he
anybody
yeah,
could be James Bond under the right
yeah,
circumstances.
yeah, yeah. And I guess he was a male model and a car salesman as well, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe he was
And
car
I know
sales. I could be mixing that up. I'd have to
yeah, yeah,
check. It's been a
yeah.
while.
But he was also I know I guess he did a couple ads, but not really any acting. But when he went into the I think you told the story on another episode. He went to Sean Connery's tailor. It says, "Get me a suit like Sean Connery," and he
Right.
had hippie hair and he cut his hair like Sean Connery. And then they said, well, "We don't have that suit." Oh wait, here's Sean Connery's actual suit. And then they gave him that and they hemmed it up to the right size. And then he went into whose office did he go into? Saltzman or Broccoli or
I think it was broccoli because it was in,
uh,
but I'm not
yeah
sure. I think it was broccoli.
yeah. But he just snuck up. He just snuck up past the receptionist and went in there. And he was, "I hear you're looking for James Bond. Well, you found your man."
Right? Here I am.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you gotta love that, right? You gotta love that initiative, that,
yeah,
that can do sort of
yeah,
attitude. Like he wasn't gonna take no for an answer
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yes,
It in it's what a cool story versus trying to,
Yeah,
do tryouts and get rejected a million times and all that.
yeah,
Like, no, he just showed up and tried to be
man,
the
yeah,
character right away.
yeah. Yeah, and there were a few heavies they were looking into, right? Like a few like
Oh yeah.
veteran actors they were looking into.
Mhm.
And I wonder how they would have done. I know Timothy Dalton was one of them, but Timothy denied it because he felt like he was too young. So he
Yeah.
probably would have been like 23 at the time.
Yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
really
But
strange as a
imagine,
follow-up to Connery,
yeah,
unless they were gonna do it as
yeah,
a start doing like a prequel, like sort of origin series.
yeah,
That would have been cool.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, because I'm sure he would have looked very young unless he was one of those guys that looks more mature for his age, but I'm sure he looked like a kid at that time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Compared to Connery for sure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of
So,
that, this is the youngest Bond ever. He was 29, right?
mhm.
Lazenby,
Yep.
he's the youngest guy to ever play Bond, right?
I think so.
Can you imagine that guy's 29? Look how distinguished he is. Like,
Right?
like
Well, and I give credit to
yeah,
the director and the makeup department for that,
yeah,
like the makeup
yeah,
people and the
yeah,
tailors and all that, like the people doing the
yeah,
suits. Like, I'm sure they had to make him
yeah,
look older to do
yeah.
it the way that he ultimately was
Mm-hmm.
able to do it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it's funny now you think
Mm-hmm.
about he's 29 in that, and you look at 29-year-olds now, and they all look like they're
Mm-hmm.
13 by comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the style or the lack of testosterone or what it is.
It's probably some combination, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I do.
But
This is a film though that
like,
absolutely makes me kind of wish that I had grown up in a time where there was more of a respect for style, like back then, with the suits and hats and everything. Like
yeah,
it's just such a
yeah,
cool movie, like the
yeah,
the way everybody carries themselves. It's true in so
yeah,
many of the older Bond films is that it's that way, but especially I think in this one.
yeah, yes. Oh no, I agree completely. Yeah, and great style of the opening title sequence we were talking about. More Maurice Bender.
Oh yeah.
And we got all of the naked lady silhouettes, and we have flashbacks to other movies. Another new something we haven't seen before. Well, I guess we did see it in Goldfinger, some flashbacks in the
Mhm.
opening sequence, but this one shows pretty much all five movies in the flashbacks.
Yep.
Yeah, going through like an hourglass, and there's a clock going, the hands moving backward, and you see the movies scenes falling through the hourglass. Cool style.
Explosions
What do you think
happening
of
with the
the
silhouettes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah,
I love that. I love that whole sequence with the hourglass showing the old movies and the
yeah,
clips that they chose. A very
yeah,
interesting mix. You see Doctor No,
yeah,
and you see Daniela
mm-hmm,
Bianchi with
mm-hmm,
just trying to keep her just
yeah,
playing with her hair and inhaling it, with her nose, trying to keep it up
yeah,
by her nose, like making a fake
yeah,
mustache, like it's
yeah,
so cute. And
yeah,
then, you got Goldfinger
yeah,
there, and it's like it's this just very interesting
yeah,
mix of things, and then the car on fire from Thunderball,
yeah,
and the ninja
yeah,
coming out with the sword straight into the camera from You Only Live Twice.
yeah,
It's such an
yeah,
interesting mix of clips.
yeah, and we see yeah, yeah, we see both Aki and Kissy in there,
Oh, that's right.
and we
Yeah.
see Pussy Galore also, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Pussy Galore. Yep.
yeah. So I guess
So,
that's kind of ensuring the it's kind of ensuring the audience that this is the same Bond.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was a very cool homage to the earlier films, and
yeah,
I think that's the other reason why I like this one
yeah,
so much
and
because they
we,
do that
yeah,
in other parts of this film too. Like they pay tribute to the older movies,
hmm,
and it's
yeah,
I just think it's cool. It's fun to have it as a
hmm,
just sort of in some ways to me it's like really the end of the old films. It's like Yeah, I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people would probably say that's You Only Live Twice or Diamonds Are Forever, but I don't know. I think of it more like this one because it's got such
Mm-hmm.
a, a tragic and sort of surprise ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a fresh start with Diamonds. That's kind of more going into the Roger Moore era. Even though Diamonds is a Sean Connery movie, it feels more like a Roger Moore movie.
It does. It did that could have easily been
Yeah,
Roger Moore, right? It's much campier
yeah,
than Connery's other films,
yeah,
so you can tell that the
yeah,
tone had really shifted by then. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, that would have been interesting to have Roger
yeah,
Moore in that. I'd never really thought he totally could have done it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can just picture pretty much every scene in that movie. I can picture Roger Moore doing it.
Yep.
Um, And then this one, but the music we were talking about in this, it's the first time
Oh.
since From Russia with Love. It's just an instrumental
Yep.
because they wanted to have the title of the movie in the song, but there's no way they could have done that unless it was like some march or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this was John Barry's idea, and I'm so glad because hot take, I think I like this song more than the original James Bond theme itself.
That's not a hot take with me. I totally agree, and it's not even close.
Oh,
By the way,
good.
this song
I love
is
this song.
I love this one.
Yeah,
I mean, it has everything. It
yeah,
has the
but he missed that.
excitement and
Yeah,
of the original, but it's also
uh,
got that just Cold War
uh,
60s vibe to it, like with the
yeah, yeah,
synthesizer. It just sounds like a spy theme.
yeah,
Like, it's like Mission Impossible's on
yeah. It
TV
does. Yeah,
when this came out, and it's got, I feel like
yes,
it has
yeah,
elements of that along with the original theme, you know.
yeah, yeah. It almost that. Yeah, but I think he kind of contradicted himself by saying he couldn't have this the name of the title in this theme song because he could have done on Her Majesty's Secret Service. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. No.
I don't know. It's kind of a mouthful. I don't know. You'd have to really find the right singer for that.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom Jones could have
On
done
Her
it.
Majesty's Secret Service. Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't
No, but
use a vocalist, it makes
yeah,
it so much more
yeah,
iconic, right? It's
yeah,
only
yeah,
this one and From Russia with Love where there's no vocal at all on the intro.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't know, like I just then they're two of my favorite movies. Go figure. So,
yeah, yeah. But we do get some other wonderful songs in this, but no title names in the song. But you get the wonderful Louis Armstrong song. We have all the time in the world you mentioned earlier,
yep.
and the Nina song that Do You Know How Christmas Trees Are Grown.
Hmm.
So this has a wonderful sound. I know you said you had the vinyl, right?
Yep, I've got the vinyl.
This is a wonderful soundtrack. It has all the wonderful uh, tracks from the movie, and then it has the Louis Armstrong song and the Christmas song, and on my extended CD, there's that deleted track that's really cool. I think I sent you that video, or someone laid the track over the night at Peace Gloria, or when he
Yes.
breaks out of his room.
Mhm.
Dude, that sounded so freaking good.
Mhm.
That I love that track that's excluded from the movie.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, but I love the soundtrack, and I forgot to mention on the beach the little fight scene. They use it in the bobsled scene as well.
Right. Yep.
I love that song.
It's really exciting. It's like that other Barry tune that he
Yeah,
uses for uh building excitement. It's not the main theme, but it's the one that
yeah,
remember at the end of
yeah,
Diamonds when he's throwing Blofeld into the
yeah.
side
Dun
of the
dun
building.
dun dun dun
Yep.
dun. Yeah,
Right.
dun 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 dun. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
they use that. That was used in From Russia with Love, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, Diamonds Are Forever and Moonraker. They used that little composition, but it wasn't in this one. But we have this cool one, the fight music in this. They use it a couple times. It's so awesome.
Yep. Used it
I
on the
love it.
beach too, right? The opening fight, I think,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. That was it. Yeah,
Yeah. It's so fast. It
yeah. I
goes
love
really
it.
well with the
Yeah,
the sped up action
yeah,
sequences
yeah.
that
I
they
love
did.
that music. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. And then also, while we're talking about the music, one of my favorite tracks in all movies is the suspenseful build-up piece, the Gumball safe break music, which is a
Oh
cool
yeah.
scene. That it's just like
Hmm.
a slow build-up. I love that song. That the Gumball safe break music. I love
Yep.
that one.
Yep. The music there is great. Because it builds
Yeah,
so
and every
slowly, but it's again, it's like
yeah,
it's just perfect for a spy
yeah,
movie, and for
yeah,
what's going on there. That's all espionage. That whole sequence is
yeah,
espionage. So
yeah,
it's so perfect for that, I think.
yes, yeah, yeah. I love it. And then so the plot of this movie, I don't think I could do it any justice. I was looking at my VHS tapes and it doesn't really describe the plot, and I don't think
Really?
I could describe I don't think I could describe the plot of this movie unless I like babbled on for 10 minutes, but I'm sure we'll cover the plot as we go along.
Right?
But pretty much there's like two plots going on at once in this movie, and it all ties together so well. Bond is meets this mysterious woman who is who keeps trying to kill herself, or she tries to commit suicide in the ocean, and he saves her. And then at the casino, we see Bond at that cool. Oh, speaking, Sid Kane built a set, right? This is Sid Kane. We're going back to Sid Kane in this,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Sid Kane.
Yeah. So we get the Sid Kane, the set designer from Russia with Love. We don't have Ken Adam this time, but I don't know, that Blofeld's layer is pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
Like, I
it's
don't know if
great, isn't it?
Ken Adam could have done much better than that, but we get this wonderful a lot of purple theme in this movie. We have this cool purple and gold casino. Um, and here comes Tracy again, looking beautiful as ever. Diana Rigg is so hot. I know she's not like the model type they usually get. They wanted to get a a seasoned actress, like someone who could act, to be
Yep.
in this, to kind of maybe help Carrie Lazenby, who never acted.
Hmm.
But man, I think she's just as gorgeous as any of those models they've
Oh
had.
yeah, I agree.
A lot of pausing on Tracy when I was a kid, but uh, but here comes Tracy in the casino, and she's losing money she doesn't have, and then to get herself in trouble, and then Bond, of course, bails her out with his money. He says they're going in as a team, or a,
Right. Well, Madame forgot that we were to be partners
yeah,
this evening.
yeah,
My mind was elsewhere. Yeah,
it,
his mind was
yeah,
elsewhere because Tracy had just leaned over
yeah.
the table.
Yeah,
But
but I think
yeah,
since the yep. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that also when she loses the money, it's obvious that she was
Yeah,
trying to because she had 20 and she
yeah,
hit on blackjack. So
yeah,
she could have just
yeah,
stayed on 20, which any sane person
yeah,
would do.
yeah,
And instead she chose to hit and of course busted out.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's
it's
obvious.
like she
Yeah, obviously.
intentionally lost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She's just living on the edge, and she's trying to come to the end or something,
right.
and I think that's why Bond is intrigued by her. Like he's this mysterious woman. Like, why is she? Why is this mysterious beautiful woman, like, it doesn't is trying bring harm upon herself?
Right.
But she does pay him back. She wants to pay him back, so he she gives her room number.
Mhm.
She gives him her room number, and he goes up there to to get his reward, I guess. But then we have another one of Draco's heavies are in there. And we get a cool little fight scene.
Yep.
You like this little fight scene?
Yeah, it's pretty intense, right? Because
Yeah,
this is the first time I think we see the Draco's thug, probably the biggest thug he's got, right? The
yeah,
black guy,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he just looks like kind of like Jaws does when Roger Moore's standing next to Jaws. Like this guy is huge
yeah,
next to
yeah, yeah,
Lazenby, and Lazenby just
yeah,
tosses him around the room, like
yeah,
through the one of the walls at one point, the
yeah,
little wall at the end, and knock him out. But it's
yeah,
a very intense physical fight, and look,
yeah,
we need to talk about the sound editing as well, because the sound
yeah.
editing in this movie for the action sequences is fantastic. The
Hmm.
cracks of the punches are just
Hmm.
so brutal sounding. I feel like
Yeah,
they just really add to it and make you feel like you're in the middle of it.
yeah,
I meant to mention that when we were
yeah,
talking about the beach fight scene as well,
yeah,
because the cracks of the punches and when the metal hits wood, when they're using he's using the hook, and the other guy's coming at him with the paddle
yeah.
and all of that, like it sounds
Hmm.
so good, all of those
Yeah,
sound effects.
yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, no, I agree completely with this. Yeah, yeah, all the sound in this is good. I noticed a lot of weird stuff with this movie with the sound editing, like it's like post like a lot of times you'll hear them just like him say something, but you can tell he's not really saying it. They just like overlay it. Like
Hmm.
because this just the movie is just going so fast. You just hear him say something like he branched off or whatever,
Right.
but or oh look we're out of gas or whatever, like it's just so fast, like it's almost like a really fast montage, like is it kind of weird. I never noticed it with many of the other Bond movies, but I noticed with this one there's a lot of like those post why I forget what you call that, where you put
Dubbing, yeah.
dubbing afterwards. Yeah,
Hmm.
I thought I'd throw that out. That doesn't really bother me, but I noticed that that was kind of different. I didn't really see that much in the other ones.
Yeah, the dubbing in the
And
other
then
ones I feel like is slower or more intentional,
yeah,
maybe. I feel like in
yeah,
this it was like maybe little edits that were thrown in at the end. I don't know, just to add
yeah,
something to it. I mean, when he says
yeah,
he branched off, I mean that really feels
yeah,
like something they thought of in
yeah,
post. Like, okay, he needs another pun near the end of the movie,
yeah, yeah,
type thing.
yeah.
Because I don't think we even see Lazenby's lips in that scene. I think you see kind of the top of his
uh,
helmet when he
yeah,
says he branched off,
yeah,
or he's looking behind
yeah,
him when he says it. So
yeah,
yeah, it's like it doesn't. And also in that sequence, you've got so much back projection going on anyway. It just feels fast. So
yeah.
yeah.
And then I noticed also a couple times, I don't know if it's just me, but it seemed like a couple lines of Lazenby's, even when he wasn't playing Hillary Bray, I still heard George Baker's voice. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I think they did that intentionally though, because
Okay.
it it's like at least before he's there,
Yeah,
it's like him getting into character to do it,
yeah,
and then after the fact, I think the time that if we're thinking of the same one, it's when they get into Piz Gloria. Lazenby shoots the guy who's coming
yeah,
at them with the gun, and he says, "Guns make me
yeah,
nervous," right? And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
in Hillary's voice, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think I always think of that as
yeah.
that's just him going
Hmm.
back into character because he was playing the character
Yeah,
when he was in Piz Gloria,
yeah.
and it's hilarious, right? Like it's the same
Yeah,
thing. He shoots the guy because guns make him nervous.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So I actually think it was intentional. I don't think it was by mistake.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but then so after Bond beats up that heavy guy, he smashes him through some furniture, like he slams him into some furniture,
Yep.
and then he goes back to his own room, and here's Tracy in there in a robe, looking hot as ever, and she's pointing his gun at him, and uh, and then we get some violence on women, and he grabs her wrist and squeezes it, and she drops the gun, and he says, "Who was that man in your room?" And she goes, "I don't know." And then he slaps her, like he backhands her, or open hands. It's okay as long as it's open hand.
Yeah,
but,
according to Connery.
yeah. But she is pretty much there to offer herself to him to repay her debt to him, and he doesn't want it at first. But then, of course, they go out. Don't they go out to that nice bed he has out on the balcony?
Yeah, I mean, how could you have that suite and not use that bed? That would
Yeah,
be just
yeah.
criminal.
But I think by this point, even though he doesn't know who Draco is, I think he is a little bit more intrigued by this girl. Like there's some kind of attraction to her than like the other ones. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so because he's
Yeah,
obviously, very interested in her. I mean, he
yeah,
asks about her down, does that, does that cougar belong to
yeah,
a woman, and
yeah,
who is it, right? He asked the attendant at the
yeah,
hotel, the manager,
yeah.
and all that. So, he's
Hmm.
definitely interested in her. He bails her out from what, 20,000 francs, was it?
Yeah,
Of the,
yeah,
I'm sure it was a lot of money at the time.
yeah, yeah. And then
Gambling debt.
Drake. Yeah, and I think Draco's men ended up paying him back, right? Or she did.
Yeah, she leaves the
Yeah,
20,000 francs in
yeah, yeah,
the little uh,
yeah.
thing by the bed.
Oh yeah, another little subtle thing you see. What is his name? The big black guy. Does he have a name?
I don't know if he has a name.
Uh,
I don't think so.
anyway, the Draco heavy. You see him wake up and he goes into Bond's room and he kind of listens and he hears they're getting it on and then he seems like, okay, I'm just gonna go.
Right.
You think that's when they found out like this is someone that's gonna bring joy to Tracy, so they went and told Draco.
I guess,
Um,
it
Draco,
seems like
yeah,
a really weird thing, right? Like to go back to,
yeah,
wouldn't it be weird to go back to your boss and say, okay, so we found your daughter, but the guy she's
yeah,
with and her were in the middle
yeah,
of fooling around, so we didn't want to
yeah,
interrupt him or anything.
yeah.
It seemed like she was having a really good time. You really want to say that to
Yeah,
your boss? That's also
yeah,
happens to be a
yeah,
major criminal.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't think I'd want to say
hmm,
that to him.
yeah. But then the next morning, he wakes up and Tracy's gone, and of course the money's there, or the credits are there,
Yep.
and usually, and the girl's gone, and as he's leaving, here comes the all the Draco's men. Or we don't know they're Draco's men at this point still, but the three heavies show up.
Yep.
They say, "Oh, you come with us, Mr. Bond," and they get in the convertible. All three of them with Bond, and I kind of like this performance from Lazenby. Like he seems super cocky and like nonchalant, like Sean Connery
Right.
when he gets in the car and they're driving. And this is a cool exception. They're driving down the freeway and there's no back projection and the hairs the wind, have you ever seen this before? Like they're having a scene in a car with no back projection. Have we
Hmm.
seen it before?
Right. I don't know if we have in a Bond film. There's
Yeah,
there's a lot of back
yeah,
projection in the car scenes in those early ones.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, there's a lot in this one too, but I just thought it was kind of interesting how this scene didn't. They were actually in a car filming on the road,
and then it pans out,
and
right? So you can see
yeah,
the
pans out.
highway.
Yeah, yeah. And so they this is a cool scene in the novel. Like they take him, like Draco has, I forget if it's a train or a big rig, like a big truck. They take, like he has a mobile like base. He moves around. They take him to this in the book, but in the in the in the movie they take him to this facility, and they walk through the lobby and there's a little person there. It's a
Right.
janitor and he's mopping up or he's sweeping, and what's the song he's whistling?
Goldfinger.
Yeah, little guys. So another like fourth wall breaking moment in this
Yep.
movie. Little guys whistling the Goldfinger theme, and then we get a cool, really a short but impactful fight scene right before they go into Draco's office. There's this room with lockers, and there's a bunch of echoing and a lot of, well, you're talking about the sound design. one of these loud rooms. There's another one coming up later in the movie, but this loud room like slamming into the lockers and all the echoing and there's like fast. This film is sped up. I really love this. He beats up all of Draco's men, and then he opens up the door and locks them out. And then he drops to his knees with a knife, and he's about to throw it at whoever's behind the door. And who do we see behind the door?
Draco.
Yeah, this is the first time we see Marcon. How do you say his name? Marcon Draco,
Yep.
played by Gabriel Forzetti.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the coolest allies of Bond. Like, might be up there with Tiger and Karen Bay.
Yep.
And he's a mob boss. But man, this guy's like a man of honor, though. Even though he's like a bad guy, like this is a cool, likable, classy guy. We get to see Draco for the first time, and he's there with his mistress. His mistress is beautiful too. What's her name? Olymp, yeah,
Yep.
Olymp, yeah, and yeah, we get to meet. What do you think of Draco in this?
Oh, he's great, and he immediately establishes his character. Right, Bond chucks the,
Yeah,
or well, no, when he walks in, he says, he shouts at them to stop. Right, trying to get through the door, and then he says, "Do not kill me, Mr. Bond. At least not until you've heard what I have to say, or wait, at least not until we've had a drink, right?"
yeah.
And then, if you wish, I'll give you another chance.
Yeah.
And Bond chucks the knife at the calendar, right?
Yeah. Yes, and I love this scene. There's a little subtle bit of direction here. I really love where he throws it, and I think it hits the 12th, and then Draco he doesn't have his glasses on, and then he turned like the camera is focused on Draco, so the camera or the calendar back there is blurry. And then Draco puts his glasses on and turns, and as he does that, the camera changes where Draco's blurry and it focuses in on the calendar. Did you notice that cool little that little effect? That was awesome.
Great.
And then he says, "Yeah, but today is the 13th."
Commander.
I'm I'm superstitious.
Yep.
Yeah.
A martini for our guests.
Yeah. Yeah, then so this is pretty much where he lays out his plot, Draco.
Yep.
Where he really wants the best for his daughter, and her daughter's miserable. He goes through her history and the way her mom died, and she met a count, and the count died in a car accident. And she's been living on the edge, and he wants and somehow Draco knows Bond. This guy Bond is the guy that can make his daughter happy, and Bond doesn't really want any part of it. Like, she needs a psychiatrist, not me.
What she needs is a man to dominate her.
Yeah.
To make love to her.
Yeah.
Enough to make her love him.
I love it. Yeah. So what as weird as all that is, like Draco, like his number one priority, which is like he wants his daughter to be happy. So I always liked him for that.
Right.
As weird as that whole scenario is, like he has all these businesses and criminal organization to run, but he's still a father and he wants the best for his daughter. As weird as that scenario is, but Bond has a second guess, like, maybe you can pimp your daughter out to me if you tell me where Blofeld is.
Right.
Because he has connections to like the criminal organizations or whatever. But Bond has a second guess, like, maybe you can pimp your daughter out to me if you tell me where Blofeld is.
Right.
Because he has connections to like the criminal organizations or whatever.
Yep.
And M actually took him off of Operation Bedlam. Was it to look for Spectre? Was it called Operation Bedlam?
Well, that happens after this scene, right?
Oh, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, like
we'll talk about that.
Bond still hasn't been to MI6 at this point. He's
yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Still in the field, but what's funny about it too, this whole sequence, right, is Draco doesn't open with that. Bond says no to this whole proposition right away
Yeah.
because he's like, I
Yeah.
I prefer the bachelor lifestyle. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
flattered, but this is really not for me. You know, and
Yeah.
Draco's like,
And
okay,
he's
well,
not about money either.
right, because he
Yeah.
tries money. He
He's
says
not
that,
about money. Yeah.
yep, on the
Yeah.
day you
Yeah.
marry her, I'll give you £1 million, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, uh,
Yeah.
dowry or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Bond's like, oh, that's very generous of you, but I don't need £1 million.
Yeah.
Draco's a
My
stupido.
boy. Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was so
Yeah.
funny. But Bond's reaction to that is
Yeah.
just so perfect. Like, but I don't need £1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of shows how dedicated to his duty he is. Like he's just about finding Blofeld.
Yep. Right. Being a secret
Yeah,
agent and being a bachelor
yeah,
too, right? I mean, he's
yes,
already been
yes,
with
yeah,
Tracy at this point. He's intrigued by her, but he has no intention of
yeah,
getting married or,
yeah,
giving up his lifestyle.
yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah. Wonderful. So, yeah, but when he brings up Blofeld, Draco mentions some of his men had defected to him. I wonder if any of those guys. I wonder if Grunther had was one of
Right.
Draco's men or not. But I wonder which one,
Yeah, I always wondered that
uh,
too.
or if it was the guy that got splattered on the snow that got thrown off of the the
Right?
cliff.
Or was it
Um,
Frau Farbissina?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. What's her
yeah.
name? The
Irma Bunt.
Irma Bunt, aka future Frau
Yeah,
Farbissina in Austin Powers.
yeah. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, but
uh,
Bond is but you're thinking he might go along with this to get information from Blofeld, and then is this where he goes back to MI6
yeah,
for the first
yeah,
time?
yeah. Because he,
Yeah,
what was it? Draco said, if I knew where Blofeld was, I wouldn't tell Her Majesty's Secret Service, but I might tell my
yeah,
future
yeah,
son-in-law. And
yeah. That's what it was. Yeah,
and
yeah,
Bond said, well, let me sleep on it. Let me sleep on the idea. And
yeah,
Draco says, you do that. And then, yeah, he's the next scene, Bond's back
yeah.
at MI6.
Yeah, and we get to see Moneypenny, and she's looking like glowing more than ever. I think Peter Hunt
Right.
was mentioning that she had like the custom tailored dress made for her,
Oh,
and something
nice.
about this time, it doesn't seem like the other MI6 scenes. This seems like on a whole another level, like the cinematography, like there's different camera angles. Sometimes like you get close-ups of Moneypenny
Mm-hmm.
and like everything's so well framed and everything like um in this movie and like all of her like close-ups look really good in this and I think George interacts with her really well.
Oh, yeah. They have
um
a great chemistry, which is
yeah,
really impressive to see. Like
her,
I feel like she maintains everything she developed with Sean with this. Like
yeah,
it could have been Connery there, and it would have been
yeah,
very similar. So
yeah,
Lois Maxwell does a great job of maintaining the
hmm,
established character and
yeah,
charisma that they had.
hmm, yes. Yeah, she plays a pretty big part in this.
Yep.
well, I guess this is kind of a little side plot, but kind of cute little scene where Bond goes in to talk to M about Operation Bedlam, and M doesn't want anything to do with it,
Yep.
yeah, this is like the only time I've noticed. I don't remember Sean ever being like this, but like M really gets under Bond's skin in this one. You can see him gritting his teeth a couple times in this movie
Hmm.
like you can see like Bond is pissed at him.
Yep.
uh,
You could really see it.
and then like he storms off and he tells Moneypenny to write his letter of resignation
Hmm.
and Moneypenny looks all sad and then she gives it to him and then Bond goes in there and he calls him in to sign it and then M doesn't even look at him like Bond thinks he's resigning, and M doesn't even make eye contact with him. Like you can tell he's really pissed at this point. Like I'm resigning and you're not even looking me in the eyes.
Right.
but and then he walks out and he's what was he saying about, I can't believe that old furniture, or that old fossil.
Well, when he told
yeah,
Moneypenny to take the memo, to say, like, sir,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
requesting I'm giving you notice of my
yeah,
resignation or whatever, and she says, resignation from
yeah,
what? Her Majesty's Secret Service, and kindly
yeah,
present
yeah,
it to that monument in there.
yeah, that monument, yeah. but then she comes out and she had actually rewritten it to be a 2-week leave.
Yep.
And then she said, "Did you read it?" And then Bond reads it and he says, "Moneypenny, what would I do without you?" She says, "The trouble is, you never do anything with me."
It's a date. The moment I get back.
Yeah.
Back from where?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, like, we kind of see that M was in on it too. After he leaves, he beeps in, "Thank you, Moneypenny. What would I do without you?" So M actually does care.
Yep. Absolutely. But before we
Oh,
move on, we gotta
this one.
we gotta acknowledge
Yeah,
what happened there, right? When Bond is given his resignation, he goes into his office. This is the only time we see his
yeah,
office, as far as I know, in the
yeah,
films,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. How did I forget that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We go into Bond's office. Yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah.
goes
Go
to the
ahead.
desk. He's got, he's pouring a drink, and he's going
Yeah,
through. He sits down at his desk, and he's going through all of these relics of his former adventures, all these little
mm-hmm.
souvenirs he's got. He's got the knife.
Yeah,
He's got Honey Rider's knife from Doctor No.
yeah,
And
yeah.
as he goes through all these things, the music plays
The
from the
music is,
movies,
yeah,
right? So he
yes,
picks up her
yeah,
knife, and the Underneath the Mango Tree song plays, and then
yeah,
he picks up the garrote from Russia with Love,
yeah.
plays with it,
Na,
pulls it
na,
out,
na,
and
na, na.
it's the
Yeah,
From Russia with Love theme, and then
yeah.
in I
The
think
air
the next one is
breather.
the air breather from Thunderball, the
Yeah,
da da da
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep, all that. Very quick scene. It's like 30 seconds probably
Yeah,
between all of them at the most.
yeah,
And then he looks up. He's got the drink in his hand, his flask, and
yeah. He
he's
looks up
looking
at
at
the
a picture of
queen.
the queen, and he
Yeah,
says, "Sorry, mom," and takes a drink.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How could I forget that scene?
Right.
Yeah, that's like one of the most iconic scenes. Right, one of the only times we see Bond in his office,
I
and
didn't
this
even know he had an
cements that
office. Right.
yeah, me
Like.
neither. Yeah, and well, in the book, he has an office and a secretary and everything,
Yep.
but we never see it in the movie. But yeah, this really cements the fact that this is the same guy. It's not a different code name. A guy named James Bond who's a different man. This is the same guy.
Right.
As Sean Connery. I think they were kind of gonna tease the idea, but they didn't go with it. Where Bond had plastic surgery, so his enemies wouldn't recognize him. I
Right.
don't know if I would have gone for that or not, but I guess that could have worked.
Mhm.
But uh, but I guess since Sean comes back, it's good they didn't do that.
Yeah.
but
Well, and it's a
yeah,
little weird, right? Because you would think that Blofeld would recognize him very easily
yeah,
after you only live
yeah.
twice, you know?
No, it's kind of like Clark Kent. If he has glasses on, he can't recognize him.
Right? So you
Yeah,
do have
if
to
he has
suspend belief a little bit to watch
Yeah,
the
that
movie.
that's like one of the that's like the biggest plot hole I think in these earlier Bond movies, because this book was they've been wanting to make this movie for a long time, but they keep making the other movies before it, so they ended up making You Only Live Twice
Hmm.
before this, which should come after in the book series.
Yep.
And Blofeld's in that, and of course he already met Blofeld, and it's Donald Pleasance. But in the book, by this point, Blofeld did have plastic surgery. He changed his face because they weren't even sure the guy in Case Gloria
Ah,
was Blofeld.
okay.
but they just but he did have plastic surgery, so I don't really, the Blofeld thing doesn't bother me. It's just weird that he doesn't recognize Bond, but they wanted to be so accurate to the book, they didn't want to go change stuff. So I'm glad they kept it like that. You just
Oh
have
yeah.
to, like, that's just so, just, I guess that's just something you have to ignore. I just like to believe he has the Superman glasses, the Clark Kent glasses.
Give him that ability to
Yeah,
hide in plain
yeah,
sight. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great. I love it.
yeah, yeah. And then we get a little bit of romance coming up, like some true romance. Bond actually falling in love for the first time at Draco's little bullfight arena. There, he meets up with Draco, and Tracy's suspicious. Like, she thinks Bond only loves her for her father's information, which
Yep.
is kind of accurate.
At this point,
And
yeah.
and she kind of puts him on the spot, like, tell him what you need to know, or I'm leaving,
Hmm.
or I'm not your daughter anymore. What does she say? Just tell him what you need to know, what he wants to know, and
Tell
um,
him, Papa, or you will never see me
tell him,
again.
Papa. And then, of course, Draco tells him this man Blofeld has connections to a lawyer in, is it in Portugal there? I forget where the lawyer
Bern,
is.
in Bern, Switzerland.
Bern, yeah, yeah, in Bern, yeah, Switzerland, yeah, and yeah, so he tells him, so Bond has a lead now, like the first lead. This is a big moment for Bond, I think, because in the novels, like, it was a big struggle trying to find out where Blofeld was.
Hmm.
Like he'd been looking a long time since Thunderball to find Blofeld, and this was like a big lead. So he finally knows where Blofeld is, and then Tracy storms off, like, okay, you have what you want, and then she storms off. And then I guess Bond could have just let her go. He doesn't need her at all anymore. But I guess there is a real um, attraction to her, because he chases her down,
Yep.
and she's standing by her cougar there, and then he wipes her tears off, and he's saying something like, "Oh, I think
I was always taught that what was it? Something should be remedied,
some,
especially
yeah,
between
something should
friends
really,
or
yeah,
lovers.
yeah,
So
yeah, friends
disagreements or
or
something.
lovers, yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they embrace, and I kind of get teary eyed. This is the first time Bond ever, like, has a real love, and then you see, like, a love montage that we've never seen in movies that probably got popular in the '60s and '70s and '80s. The love montages, and I miss
Hmm.
those things. We never see them in movies anymore.
No.
Um, just kind of like training montages. We don't see much, or
Right.
but but we get this love montage, and that's where you see her holding the black cat. They're walking around this beautiful garden, like a courtyard, and they're going around on dates, and they're shopping, and they're on horseback. I think it's the first time we see Bond on horseback. Um,
This is the love
yeah,
montage that's like the Rocky training
yeah,
montage. It's never been done
yeah,
better than
yeah.
this. Like
No, no, not at all. Yeah. Then there's the beach. They're walking on the beach.
Louis Armstrong
We
singing
had
yeah.
all the time in the world. I love that song.
Yep.
Um,
She's wearing that
and then
adorable hat. Remember, she's got that yellow outfit for
yeah,
the
oh
rain,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like so
yeah,
60s, that outfit.
yeah, oh yeah. And then yeah, so then everyone gets insulted. I've been seeing on reviews that all of a sudden it's Christmas time when it was just September. But I was like thinking maybe they're dating and having fun for a month or so. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's you could see that some time went by there, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
At least a little bit of time,
yeah,
right? Because then he's got a
yeah,
plan to do the espionage at the office in
yeah.
Switzerland,
At
organize
at the
that with his
Gumboldt,
helper.
the Gumboldt.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so is Campbell is supposed to be one of his guys, right? In the
Yeah,
book, he was one of MI6. Yeah,
yeah. As far as I know, Campbell is. I thought he was MI6, but
yeah,
do you
because
think
he's
he was
working
with
there with
Drax?
Draco's. I don't know, with Draco, he was like, there was a Draco construction going around on the other side where he had the crane and all that.
Ah,
But I just
okay.
but he seems more. He's an Englishman, so I assume he's still in the book. He was an MI6 guy, and he really almost ruined it for Bond in the book. Like when they caught him climbing up there, they beat him up and brought him in right when Sir Hilary was having a meeting with Blofeld, and they brought, hey, we caught this guy climbing around, and then the guy's all
Wow.
beat up, and he says, "Oh, James, thank God you can help me now." Like, oh,
Oh
you
God.
idiot, or you dumbass, Campbell.
Wow.
And then Blood's like, "Oh, I've never seen this chap before. I think he must have been hitting the head pretty hard or whatever."
Right?
uh, but uh, but Campbell's out there with this cool little plot. This is like one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It goes straight from all of the romance, and they're even in the car together. So this is in Switzerland, then, is it? This area where
Right.
the bank or
Yep. Bern,
the law firm
Switzerland.
office is?
Yep.
Okay,
That's where it
Bern,
is.
Switzerland. Okay, so Bond shows up. There just struts right in there, and as Mr. Gumboldt is leaving his office for lunch or whatever, um, he sneaks up there. They have this cool plot, and this is just like the book. And it's cool that they found a location like this where there was actually construction going on. Peter Hunt was saying there was actual real construction going on the other side of this building. It was set.
Nice.
It was just perfect, like from the book, and they had the crane and everything, and all that was not a set or anything. It was all a real location.
Nice.
Um, so Bond, he struts on up there. This is a cool, suspenseful moment. He sneaks into Gumbold's office, and there's a safe in there, but Mr. Campbell's down there with the crane, and he sends up in the big tub this big briefcase for Bond, and Bond goes out to the balcony of Gumbold's office and grabs this thing, and inside is a big photocopy machine, or like a copy machine, and a code break, or like a lock breaker. What do you call it? Something that breaks the combination code
Yep.
breaker.
Right.
And I know everyone gets super insulted, like, he had a tiny one he had in his pocket and you only live twice, and now he has to have this huge thing that takes like 5 minutes. But this thing also has there's like a copy machine, and that thing would have been like state of the art at the time, like a photocopy machine in the suit, right?
Yep. Which is
The-
more reliable than a
so
camera, right, at the
yeah,
time, and that's
yeah,
why he did
yeah,
it, because with the camera he was still, there
yeah.
was no instant production cameras. There weren't Kodak cameras
Mm-hmm.
yet, so he had no guarantees that he could
Yeah,
get
yeah,
all the info on a
yeah,
camera.
yeah, yeah. So this is a cool scene. Like I said, I love the John Barry piece right here where the suspense is building up, and as he's doing all this, he hooks up the code breaker, and it finally gets it open, and he goes through the files. He finds a file on Blofeld, and he takes it out to um he takes it out to make a copy of it on that machine.
Right.
Which, I mean, that it's just a copy machine. We all see those every day now, but I think in the '60s, something like that would have been pretty amazing. Um, so he makes copies of the Blofeld files. He puts it all back, and then Blofeld's Gumbold's coming back from wherever he was. So it's getting more suspense. Like, oh, is he going to catch him? But Bond puts all the stuff back in the suitcase, throws it into the tub. Campbell brings it back. The whole time Bond is in there looking at the Playboy magazine that's hidden inside the newspaper.
Right.
Like, it's not nonchalant looking at the Playboy magazine, and he even takes it with him right after he leaves.
He steals the centerfold.
He said, "No, yeah, he steals the centerfold. Yeah, he's taking. Yeah, then he just walks right as he leaves. Here comes Gumbolt back. He passes him
Yep.
by the elevator as he leaves. So he has everything he needs. So he has a proper lead on Blofeld now, which is cool. And then he goes back to another first time. He goes back with this information to M's house. We've never seen M's house before ever, right?
Right.
Other than like later on with Judi Dench.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we see Bernard Lee, and he's a big in the, what is it called, like butterflies? What is that called?
Or orthodontry? Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And of course, Bond knows the names of all of them. Like,
I
I
can't
see your
remember. Yeah.
expertise extends in.
It's
Yeah,
such a weird name. The
yeah,
study, hang on, let's look it up. Study of insects,
yeah,
probably, right?
yeah,
Such a weird thing for M to be into, right? Like, who would have
yeah,
thought that?
yeah, yeah.
Entomology is the study of insects, but that wasn't
Yeah.
it,
I'm
though.
surprised they.
Maybe it was
Yeah,
butterflies.
I guess it was. I, I can't remember. It might be from the novel, but it was cool they even added that. Like he could have just gone back to his office.
Right. But it's a beautiful place, too, the place that they used. Ah, here it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were right. It is butterflies.
yeah,
Lepidopterology.
yeah.
Yeah, is the
Oh, okay.
it's a branch of
Yeah,
entomology concerning the study of moths and
yeah.
two superfamilies of butterflies.
Oh, okay.
Lepidopterus.
Okay. And of course, whatever specimen he had there, Bond knew the name of it.
Unusually small for a something polychorus or something. I forget. I forget how he said it. It was some interesting name though.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't aware that your
And
expertise
then,
extended to lepidoptery.
yeah, this leads him to the College of Arms, the School of Fields or Genealogy. What is it called? Like the College of Arms.
The College of
That
Arms, yeah.
yeah. And I guess they the interior that they shot the real College of Arms, but then they rebuilt the set. Sid Kane rebuilt all of it for the office shots. So that was all like most of that was like Sid Kane sets,
Wow.
which is cool.
Yeah.
Like I think the interior, like when they first walk in and you see a big wide shot of it, that was the real one. But then a lot of the other ones was Sid Kane stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet Sir Hilary Bray for the first time. Is a pretty cool, distinguished actor that plays George Baker, that plays Sir Hilary Bray, who has a big part in this movie because he voices James Bond through a lot of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we meet Sir Hilary Bray, and he actually has Bond's family arm or his coat of arms there, and his family motto is I forgot how you say it in Greek, but orbit non suffici or something. But it's the world is not enough is
Yep.
Bond's family quote, right? Which is pretty cool that they would end up using that. That's the perfect title for a Bond movie, I thought.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah,
And a Bond song.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then so Hillary knows Blofeld for being, what is it, Lord de Blochel of the Blochel bloodline, who they're counts or something, right?
Right? The
Or he
Blowchamps.
wants to he wants to solidify his title as count or something, and
Yep.
these people don't have earlobes, as Sir Hilary's telling him he can't. Sir Hilary for some reason can't go there himself, but Bond can go undercover as Sir Hilary, and he can talk just like him.
Yep.
um, and and speaking of the ear thing, I didn't. Tully Savalas, we'll get to him in a little bit. I guess he had to clip his earlobes back.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I saw that movie, I was really, oh, did Telly Savalas never have earlobes? I never noticed that. Like, did they get Telly Savalas because he doesn't have earlobes? But he had them pinched back.
Okay.
uh,
But
yeah.
it did a good job because it really
Um,
looked like he didn't have them.
yeah. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I wouldn't even know it. Yeah, it looks like he just didn't have So then this guy, Sir Hilary's kind of he's kind of more of a posh prissy guy than Bond, and Bond goes undercover as him. And I think when I was a kid, maybe this was part kind of dragged on for me, and I didn't like it. Like, I don't want Bond acting like a pussy or the whole but now I think it's awesome. Like, I love this whole sequence of Bond going undercover as Sir Hilary.
Oh yeah. No, it's fantastic, right? It's so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so antithetical to his character
yeah,
otherwise. And I think that's
yeah,
another thing that's just so
yeah,
cool about the movie is you see Lazenby not just as James
yeah,
Bond, but you see him as James Bond trying to be a nerd.
yeah.
It's, he has to act like Bond,
Yeah,
acting like a
it's so
nerd.
awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Connery never had to do that.
And
That never happened to the other fella
yeah,
either.
no, yeah. And this one kind of this is where like there's like two plots, and then the kind of the main plot takes over from this point. So we don't see Tracy again for a while,
Right?
and who he's in love with, but I guess he's not engaged to her yet, so he has some fornication to do yet.
Yeah,
But
just a little bit, not too much.
yeah, but
Minor
I know a lot of
fornication.
people get super offended by that. Like yeah, I know. I was watching some reviews leading up to this, and a lot of people were offended. Like, man, he's supposed to be in love with Tracy, but he's having sex with all these other women,
Hmm.
and like I can kind of see that. But this is also a Bond movie. Like if this is your first time seeing George as Bond, like he has to get some women too. Like we still have to establish this is Bond, and it's not like he's engaged to her yet at this point or anything. But
Right.
he's undercover. Like what happens on a mission stays on a mission, baby.
Well, that's the other thing about Lazenby is
Yeah,
he hadn't been with anyone except Tracy, I think, to this point, right, in the film.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, for
And
a
you know
Bond
how I
film,
am. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like a record as far as being with one woman
yeah.
in a Bond film for time.
Yeah. You remember what I said? Four is the perfect number. That's why I liked.
Right?
You only live twice so much.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure they hint at him getting four in this one. He gets Tracy, he gets Ruby, he gets
Right.
Nancy, and they kind of hint that at 10 o'clock he gets the Chinese girl, right?
Right, right. Yep. Yeah, because yeah, I
But
mean, like
I don't know
one per half
uh,
hour, for the film. Yeah, that seems pretty good. I agree. Four is a good number.
yeah. Actually, maybe he got Irma Bunt instead. I think she caught him before he could get with Ruby. Bond incognito is Sir Hilary Bray, the genealogist from the Heraldry School.
Yep.
He comes up by train to this beautiful little Swiss village, and he meets with Blofeld's henchman, and the head hench person is Irma Bunt, and I think she's hilarious in this movie. She's kind of an ugly old rotten woman, but I think she's a little bit more likable than what's her name, Rosa Klebb. Like, she's kind of
Hmm.
funny, and
Yeah, Klebb is just
I
pure
think she's just
sinister, right? Like,
yeah,
with
yeah,
the fun thing about Irma is that she
yeah,
actually, she sets up Bond for some really great one-liners, and
yes,
and
yes,
she's sort of corralling all of the girls there, right?
yeah,
She's sort of like the head mistress in a Catholic school or
yeah,
something, like is sort of the
yeah,
vibe you get, and
yeah,
it's just
pretty
sort of
much, yeah,
hilarious, right? And the girls even are like, "Ooh, don't say that. That's
yeah,
naughty. Like, don't let you know Irma hear you or whatever."
yeah,
They're all afraid of her.
yeah,
It's hilarious.
yeah. It's so funny. I love that little dynamic going on there. But we get Irma picks him up with, I think, Grunther's the other heavy henchman in this, picks him up, the one that fights with Tracy at the end. And
Yep.
I guess this guy is a wrestler. That guy, his name is Yuri Borienko, and I
Yeah.
guess he's the guy that practiced with George Lazenby for his fight scenes. I guess he was going to be originally the black guy in that fight scene,
Oh wow. Okay.
and they ended up using him as Herr Grunther. But I think he was originally going to be the one of Markanja's heavies,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a classic henchman. He's not really one of the more iconic ones, but he's just like the typical little Dr. Claw, Inspector Gadget henchman that I like.
Mm-hmm.
um, mean little pit bull of a man, like a dog on a leash, little mad agent henchman. I kind of like those types of henchmen. But
Mm-hmm.
Irma Bunt is probably like the big heavy, and she's from the novel as well, and she actually showed up again in You Only Live Twice. So I'm really surprised she didn't show up more. The poor girl that played her, what's her name? She's an old lady. She'd been in movies for years. Her name is Elise Stepat. I guess that she died right after this movie was released of a heart attack.
Really? I didn't know that.
So that's one of the reasons she never came back. Well,
Okay.
she's an important character too, because she's the one that kills Tracy,
Right?
and then we just
Yeah.
never see her ever again. And I
Yeah.
think there was even talks of her to come around Inspector.
Wow.
I think that would have been cool if they brought her back in Inspector with Christoph Waltz
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
in the book. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was supposed to be like really ugly in the book. Like they would always tell you, oh man. I remember in You Only Live Twice, Tanaka's all, oh, that man Shatterhand lives on the island with the ugly woman. It's yeah, she's like she's really ugly Bond. Like you don't even want to look at her. She's ugly.
Well, Tanaka messes with him so much
um,
though, because the woman he's got to
yeah,
marry
yeah,
for to stay incognito. Oh, she has the face of
yeah.
a pig. I was
Yeah.
like, this
Oh yeah,
beautiful
you're right. Yeah.
Japanese woman, right? Like,
Oh yes, yes. Yeah. He got him with that one.
yeah.
Uh, but I like that line. They're flying over. They get on the little sled and they go to the helicopter, and then Bond is playing Celery Blaine. He's really playing up a weenie, like he's afraid of heights and he's all nervous and he's getting airsick.
Right.
And she goes, "Are you okay, Sir Hilary?" And and he says, "I'll be happy to get down on solid ground." And he goes, "Not ground, ice."
Ice, not ground. Ice. It's hilarious.
uh,
Yeah, their
and
back and
then
forth is
so then
great.
yeah, I love it. And then of course the whole time we see Campbell's there again, and he's scoping out the area,
Yep.
and he even tries to go up there in his Volkswagen Bug, but he can't get so far. And he eventually later on he tries to take the gondola, but they won't let him.
Yep.
And so he has an agent down there on the ground, but we finally get to see Blofeld's headquarters in this, and I think it's my favorite. It might not be like the most extravagant of all, but I think this is my favorite Blofeld layer in the whole series. What about you?
Yeah, it's a great lair. I love it, and
Mm-hmm,
it makes perfect sense for what they're doing. They've got to develop
mm-hmm,
this crazy
mm-hmm.
viral sort of agent thing that's gonna
Yeah,
disrupt all
the
the
Omega
fertility,
virus.
the Omega virus. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so they've got all
This
the
is
scientists
yeah.
back there, the lab you can see, but in front
Mm-hmm.
of it, you've got this really posh sort of winter retreat,
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful
yes.
place that's Blofeld's lair.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he had a great lair in You Only Live
Mm-hmm.
Twice and as well. And
Yeah,
Doctor No obviously had a
yeah,
great one underwater. That was pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
I really love this one. I have to say, I think
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is
Mm-hmm.
he's got the Christmas tree in there, and
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite Christmas movies. Like
Oh,
I
me too.
usually
Yeah, this
watch
is
this
up
one
there.
around Christmas
Yeah,
time, so I always think about
yeah.
Christmas when I see the movie, and
No,
yeah,
this is my favorite Christmas movie.
yeah, it's definitely one of mine
Yeah,
as well, and
yeah.
it's so it
It's
yeah,
got
it just feels good. It's a nice layer.
yeah. It's got yeah, like you said, it has so many layers to it. It has the outside, and it has like the little tunnel that goes down into the main lobby, and it has
Hmm.
the lift part or the gondola lift area, and it has the the crazy little cave. It looks like something out of Batman 60s. Like there's
Right?
icicles and stalagmites and stalactites everywhere. It looks like something like the Bat Cave or Mr. Freeze's lair or something. It's so cool.
It kind of
And
has
then
a
it has
Resident
the
Evil vibe.
laboratory with there's like the purple light. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It has the purple light when they go into the laboratory, and then there's like all the lab, and then his office is up there, and he's actually hands on. He's out there working in the lab, and then he has the lab outfit on, and he takes it off and he comes into his office that overlooks his production
Yep.
in his office there. Yeah, really cool. I guess we'll get to him in a minute. I just wanted to talk about the location here, how cool it was, and it's filled with all of the beautiful women from from many different continents. That they're called the Angels of Death. Unknowingly, they're the Angels of Death. They're the plot of this movie is pretty much Bond doesn't know it up to this point. Like we don't even know about Blofeld's plot up until this point. We just know he's trying to become a count, and Sir Hilary's there to talk to him and confirm his counthood.
Yep.
And there's a cool little a meeting with them, but there's the girls up here, and we don't know what's going on with these girls. But it turns out they all had some allergy to a certain food, and they're up here to cure their allergy. And that's this clinic run by Dr. What's he called? The Bloschel?
The Blowchamp. Is that it?
The Blowchamp. Yeah, he's going to cure them of their allergies, but in reality he's brainwashing them, and he's going to give them this Omega virus to go take back to their respected countries, and they're going to contaminate the livestock and the agriculture and the grains or whatever country they're in, and cause
Yep.
sterilization amongst the crops and the livestock, which is a really sinister plot we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I really love this plot. It's super eerie to me. This is the part of the movie that's kind of like unsettling.
Very evil.
Yeah, very evil. Yeah, this guy, and it's the same as the book. Like he kind of went low key after Thunderball, like with the warheads, and then he's over here doing this now. just as threatening though, and we get the little meeting. I think this is a good time to talk about Telly Savalas. We get the first meeting where Bond incognito as Sir Hilary Bray confronts Blofeld. Telly Savalas. I know he's both of our favorite Blofelds. So,
Yep.
what do you think about Telly Savalas as Blofeld?
He's great, right? I think I said it when we did the Best of Bond series. He's my favorite in part because here's a story about a British Secret Service agent set in Europe. All of these European characters and villains, and Donald Pleasance has already played the role, right? And he's an Englishman too, and so everything about this role is like European. And here comes Telly Savalas in with his obviously American accent that you don't even really notice because he's so sinister right from the beginning. He's obviously really into the role, but he's got an American accent through the whole thing, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even throw it off at all. And it's just
Yeah,
that's how good he
yeah.
is in
Wow,
this
can you
role.
imagine? Yeah, I guess he always has a different accent anyway. He's an Englishman, and Diamonds Are Forever. He has. I can't tell what that accent is in the first couple of movies, and then Donald Pleasant's accent. What is that like? Like, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
creepy. It's definitely
yeah,
creepy, right? But
yeah,
um
yeah. I love it. Yeah. No, but this guy, yeah, American. Just the way he's so suave and smooth, though, and the way that weird way he holds his cigarette.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. This is my favorite Blofeld.
I mean, it's
Um,
definitely the
I almost get
smoothest
like the
Blofeld, right? He's
yeah,
definitely like very suave.
yeah,
I mean, he had to be, right? He's got a
yeah,
mountain lair in the
yeah,
Alps filled with like the
yeah,
most beautiful women in the world
yeah,
just all around him.
Yeah.
So obviously he had to be the
Yeah.
smoothest Blofeld to pull this off, right? Like the most
Yeah.
charismatic.
Yeah.
So like to have a shot at
Yeah.
this plot.
Mhm.
Could you imagine Donald Pleasance with his scar, like getting all these women together, like in one place?
Oh no. Yeah.
Nobody would have bought that. No,
Maybe.
let's get Kojak,
That would
baby.
have been.
Kojak could do it.
Yeah. Kojak, baby. Yeah. Yeah. But no, he's perfect for this. Now that would have been funny to have Tully Savalas play the same role. I guess they intentionally didn't get Donald Pleasance just for that reason because they knew it would have been a more a physical role.
Right.
So that's why they didn't bring him back.
Yeah,
I guess it kind of makes more sense too.
Lazenby would have
Because
sneezed
he
on
did.
Donald Pleasance and knocked him out.
Yeah,
Like-
I know. And then, like you said, he's more physical. Like yeah, he's out there working in the lab, and then he's out there on the skis,
Yep.
and he's out there on the bobsled. And yeah, great stuff from Telly, and he's a charmer too. Like he's almost like King Koopa in this, and like Princess Peach. Like
That's
he
right.
captures the princess at the end, and he's trying to marry her, like have her become his countess.
Yep.
But I'm already a countess.
Right. Whereas if
Um,
you displease me, I can
yeah,
promise you a very different fate.
yeah. I like that line he says when poor Campbell is dead, they have him hanging upside down outside. That's a pretty
Mm,
a pretty disturbing scene where Campbell's dead. They catch him after he's been mountain climbing. But then I guess we'll get back to the Angels of Death. We see Sir Hilary gets his own room to research on Blofeld's genealogy, and they have him locked in there. But they bring him out for dinner. He puts on the kilt, the Scottish get up, and he looks like a stud. And that I remember Peter Hunt was all wed about that in the commentary, like,
that's-
oh, look how good he looks in that kilt. So like he looks so bad. He does though. He looks awesome in that kilt. Yeah. But but then he goes out to dinner, and there's Irma Bunce out there with all of the women out there, and we get the saxophone. You see all the beautiful women out there.
They all look up at him.
They
Yeah.
they all look up, and they're all attracted to this guy. He's supposed to be this nerdy genealogist guy, but of course, a handsome guy's playing him, and he's supposed to be this guy's supposed to not like women, and he's just like this nerdy guy about family trees and whatnot, and he's talking about all this genealogy stuff. And they're pretending like they're interested, but they're just like wed about him. They just want to be near him.
Right.
And then they go eat, and this is when you see each woman is eating the food that they were allergic to, and we meet Ruby for the first time. I forgot to mention her. I love Ruby. She's kind of like a country girl. Like she's not super elegant or anything, but she's super sexy and beautiful. She kind of reminds me of like more of like a down to earth like country girl, kind of like the English version of what do you call her? Plenty O'Toole.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's super. She's all over Sir Hilary here, and she sits right next to him. What do you think of Ruby, the girl from
yeah,
she's
she's
from England, and she's allergic to chicken, right?
yep. And she grew up on a chicken
Yeah,
farm, so that was inconvenient.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
every time she had to do something, she nearly died on the
I
farm.
broke out all over the place.
You'd be surprised
In
where.
places you couldn't. Yeah,
Yeah, but she's obviously enamored with him right away, and
yeah.
they're flirting, and
Hmm.
he offers to show her the book of all the heraldry stuff
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the gold balls,
yeah. What are they called?
the
Peasants or
the peasants, yeah,
yeah. What are they? Balls. My
right.
my family tree has four of them, or what? Or my family shield has four of them.
And then she tries to give the room number, but Fräulein Bunt says, "No, no, he will give the book to me. I will pass it to everyone in turn."
Yeah.
And then she pulls up his skirt under the table and writes her room number on his thigh, and
Yeah,
setting up what's
and
probably
they
the
get
best
the
pun in the whole series, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, Fräulein
So
Bunt is
Hillary,
looking
what
at
does
him.
it matter?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Hillary, so what did he say? So Hillary, is everything all right?
Just a slight stiffness coming on, Fräulein.
I love that scene.
It's hilarious. So good.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
of course he goes to see her later and gets to the room and he's got the book and she says or she
Mhm,
goes to turn on the light and he says, "No, no, leave it off. But I want to see the pictures.
mhm.
You're a picture yourself and twice as lovely in the
Yeah,
firelight.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you didn't like
She's always just
girls,
that.
Sir Hilary." Well, I don't
I don't
usually,
usually
but
don't.
that lipstick was an inspiration, and so are you.
Yeah. And then he uses the same lines on the other girl later
Yeah,
on.
on the German, right? It's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
And then this is where we see Blofeld's technique. He sneaks out of his room with that. He uses like a piece of a ruler and a clamp and an eraser to open his door. We see there's an easier way to do it later from the German girl. What's her name? Nancy.
I think so,
She
yeah.
doesn't have a name. I just saw on the cast that was her. But
Hmm.
but we see Blofeld's technique of brainwashing these girls every night at a certain time. The light there's like a light stealing and a psychedelic looking thing that comes on,
Right.
and this weird sound starts happening, and then you hear Blofeld's voice. There's a recording. Like you're getting sleepy, or you're gonna do everything I say. When you first came here, you hated chickens. You were repulsed by the sight of them, the taste of them, everything. But now you love chicken. I can't remember his exact words. He's brainwashing them. This is his brainwash technique, which eventually he's going to use to have them contaminate. When they go home, they're going to contaminate their country with this Omega virus. But
Yep.
we see the we see his technique, and I hear a lot of like critics say this is kind of cheesy and corny, and but I
Mm.
like this a lot. Like I said, there's not a lot of that uncanny surrealism in this Bond movie that I like. It's in a lot of other ones, but he's brainwashing each girl in their own room. I'm sure they all each have their own recording. They all have their own 8-track or cassette tape or whatever it was. But Bond is in the middle of that as he's about to bang Ruby. The all of a sudden she goes, "Stop, Haley! It's time for my session." And then she's concentrating, and then here comes the lights and all that, and she sort of goes into she's become hypnotized, and I kind of like that type of thing. This movie, like I said, is more grounded than a lot of them, and I like Bond movies for like their surrealism and their like uncanny. When it goes into uncanny areas, so I really like this brainwashing sequence. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think it's very 60s, and that makes it very just appropriate for the time. You have to be kind of aware of the
Yeah,
film
yeah.
techniques of the time and the culture. Light shows were really
Mhm,
popular, right? With rock bands and things like that.
mhm.
Like I watch this scene now and I think, oh, it's a Pink Floyd show, kind of on the ceiling, right? And but
Right, yeah,
it makes it fun though, I think. It looks campy. It probably even looked campy to a lot of people at the time, but with the
yeah,
music, it's so weird. And that like
yeah,
I love the plot
yeah,
too, right? Like I love the idea of the brainwashing of all the angels of death, and that's how the virus spreads throughout the world. Like
yes,
it's such a ridiculous over the top 60s
yeah,
plot, and I love it.
yeah, oh, absolutely, and it is out of the book. I don't know if the technique was just like that in the book, but this was taken from the book, as this is like one of the most accurate adaptations of the book. I think you mentioned the music. I think that's one of the reasons I really like that really creepy, eerie John Barry stuff with the synthesizer and I love the little musical score or the little musical cues in this moment. Really cool. And then and then Bond after he leaves old Ruby's room. Oh, and Ruby, I guess she was in your other movie, like 67 Casino Royale. Can you spot her
Oh,
in that?
that's right. Yeah, I don't remember that because I haven't seen Casino
Yeah,
Royale, the 67 version, in a very long time.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Me neither. But I know, I guess she's in there. She plays a character named Buttercup.
Okay.
He kind of looks like a buttercup, but I know, but I just saw on Internet Movie Database he's a character in that. There's a lot of reoccurring Bond actors in that movie. Um, but then we go to another girl. Bond goes back to his room. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but Bond made his little contraption to escape his room. But here's Nancy in his room, and she found out how to get out with only a fingernail file. And there's the is she German or what nationality is Nancy?
I think
I
she's
can't
German.
remember.
I'm not certain.
Yeah,
Her accent sounds German
yeah,
to me, but it might be something else. It might be
yeah,
Austrian.
yeah. Maybe Austrian. Yeah, but she's in back in Bond's room, wanting to look at the book or probably other things, and then and then he goes on with the same lines he told Ruby. How did it go? I'm more interested than you than the book, or you're pretty as a picture. What does he say?
He says, "No, don't turn on the light, but I want to see the pictures.
Oh yeah, that's it.
You're a
Yeah,
picture
yeah,
yourself, and twice as lovely in the firelight."
yeah. Yeah,
Well, when the thing is, when you got something that
yeah,
works, you got to stick with it, right? Like
yeah,
you just got to
yeah.
stick with
No
what
kidding.
works. So,
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is so cool. It's just like the ultimate fantasy. Like you go to this beautiful, mysterious location, and you're locked up in a room, and you escape, and there's all these beautiful women in the other rooms, and I just love this movie. Is like cozy and sexy, and I love this movie.
it's so over the
But
top, right? It's again,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so over the top for a setting and a just something to
yeah,
happen, that
yeah,
it feels like it's out of a comic book to me.
yeah. It does, right? Yeah. And then the next day is that where we see Campbell trying to get up to Peace Gloria by the lift,
Right.
and it's like and it's really establishing this place as like a like off limits restricted area. Like there's this big fancy building with a big nice gondola, but no one can go on there but a few people. And and Campbell's trying to get up there. And I think it's Herr Grunther's down there saying, "No, you can't go up there." He's like, "No, I want to go up there. I saw pictures in a magazine or whatever." Or I forget what he says. And he says, "No, you can't go." So then we get a little bit of mountain climbing, kind of foreshadowing to For Your Eyes Only or For Your Eyes Only later on,
Yep.
which I think is a good. I think that movie is a great callback to this movie, For Your Eyes Only.
Hmm.
But Bond's not doing the mountain climbing. We see Campbell. He's trying to get up there, climbing up there, and he's caught in the middle of. As Sir Hillary is speaking with Blofeld about, oh, let's go down to the. He wants them to go to the head offices in a in it's one of his key mistakes Bond makes. He says that the wrong city where the college is,
Augsburg.
and yeah, and then but as they're speaking, here's Campbell getting captured by the goons. He says, "Hey, give me my equipment back, damn it! The authorities will hear about this." And then Blofeld, you kind of see Blofeld like the silhouette of him, like the sun's up there, and you see a view of him up there. He says, I am the I'm the director of this facility, and you're trespassing. And then we don't know what happens to Campbell. We assume like they just take his gear and send him back. But unfortunately, he meets his demise right there. And then what is this game they're playing up there? That it looks kind of like curling. All the cute girls are playing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's curling.
Was that? Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, because the floor is iced over.
Yeah, they're up there, and then Bond's playing off being a bumbling Sir Hillary. He falls down, and then Ruby goes to help him up. I must see you. I forget it was Ruby or Nancy. I must see you. He says at 9 o'clock. No, it was Nancy, right? I must see you. He said 9 o'clock then because he had already told Ruby 8 o'clock.
Right.
And then the Chinese girl's up there too, and he says 10 o'clock. and then he walks by the goon. The goon's kind of looking at him, and he says, I've got to get back to work. You don't realize how it's piling up." He says to that guard. Yeah, the one thing I noticed, that goon back there, doesn't he kind of look like Daniel Craig?
Yeah, he does kind of. There's another foreshadowing moment.
Yeah. I always thought, I don't know what, I guess back then when I didn't know who Daniel Craig was, I didn't notice anything special about him. But now that I know who Daniel Craig is, I always think that guy back there kind of looks like him. Yeah. And then am I missing anything, or does it go straight to the night when he's sneaking back into Ruby's room?
Yeah, it goes straight back to the next night.
Okay, yeah. And then and then you see him walking with the fingernail file, like he learned a little trick, an easier trick from Nancy. And then he walks into to Ruby's room, and you see there's someone in the bed there. And he says, "Oh, Healy is so sad you're leaving." And he says, "Don't worry about that old cow." He says something about Frau Bunt. And then he takes the covers off, and there's Irma Bunt right there. Like, can you imagine what a shock that would be? Like,
oh,
like
it was
you're
a shock
expecting
to see it. It was a shock to see it in the film. Can you imagine what it must have been for poor George Lazenby?
Yeah, you expect you're expecting Ruby there, but then you get Arnold Schwarzenegger in drag. Yeah, well, he's nice meeting you here, Fraulein, or what does he say when he says?
Fancy meeting you here, Fraulein.
Yeah. And then and then I think Herr Grunther's back there, and he hits him on the back with a club. And I guess this is the only time in the series up until later on there was a slow motion bit of editing. Did you notice that?
Oh, yes, for the as he's passing out.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's the really good editing to make him look dazed, right? Because it fades in and out of several frames.
Yeah. And I never really took any notice to that until I was researching it. That is like one of the only slow motion. I could probably find a couple other ones, but I can't think of any other slow motion moments in a Bond movie up until that technique that was used in Die Another Day, where a lot of times during the fight scene it would go to slow motion. I didn't really care for that too much.
Right.
But that's the only other time I remember, like during a fight scene, like you would see like a punch thrown or something, like it would be in slow motion for a few frames.
Yeah. The older Bond films, of course, used fast animation a lot more, right?
They use that a lot.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you would see that a lot, but I don't remember. I know I did. I wish I could think of it. I did notice a couple others in the older movies, but I know this was the first time. And then it goes to a cool transition where it plays that creepy synthesizer music, and then he wakes up and he sees the Christmas tree. This is one of our favorite Christmas movies here,
right?
And Bond has been discovered, kind of similar to in Goldfinger, when he wakes up and there he's confronted with his nemesis there, and he wakes up on the couch with a Christmas tree there. And then we get the first scene where it's actually Bond and Blofeld, like Bond as Bond and Blofeld, and he's captured, and he's laying out his scheme and all that classic Bond villain stuff. What do you think about this scene?
It's really great, right? Because it's so bright and festive. It
Yeah,
it feels like you're
yeah,
just at a ski lodge with a great Christmas tree set up, right?
yeah,
It's so inviting, and it's
yeah,
such an awesome sort of counterbalance to how sinister Blofeld's plan is and the reveal that
yeah,
he gives Bond in this scene, right? It's like it
yeah,
it's not we're as far from a tank full of man-eating sharks or piranhas or
yeah,
something in a lair as you can get in this scene. It's kind of
yes,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, good point. Like really a contrast to his plan and his personality. This nice, cozy, comforting, welcoming place. And
Yep.
this was all, I guess, a studio built by Sid Kane, right?
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
and it had a ceiling too. And I guess there was a lot of problems. The ceiling, a lot of these sets had ceilings, which make them look so real. Like looks like you're in a real place. It doesn't come off as a stage or props or anything like that.
Right.
These sets. But I guess because they put ceilings on them, that ran into a lot of problem with the lighting. But but I know I think that the lighting in this movie looks pretty good though. Like I think like every frame of this movie looks like it could be like on a painting or a highlight on the back of the VHS or something. It's just like especially this room here. Like, something about this I really like it. And the way Tully's sitting there. Um, this really photogenic, this set, and the actors in here too.
Yeah. It's a great
Yeah.
scene, and it sets up the rest
Uh-huh.
of the film, really. Like
Yeah.
this part here, because Bond finally knows
Yeah.
most of the plot by the end of this scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was kind of a plot dropped on us like through half of the movie. Like it was all about Tracy before and Draco and trying to figure out where Blofeld was, and he's trying to become a count. So this is a cool little plot just dropped on us towards the end. Which is like in a lot of Bond movies, like it just keeps getting deeper and deeper until you find there's something really really sinister going on. And then they take him over to see Campbell, right? Campbell's hanging body, and I guess that was the Pinewood set too of him hanging there.
Hmm.
Like they had a back projection of the mountain or a painting back there with him hanging by a mountain. I thought that was a pretty cool, a seamless little bit of special effects right there.
It looked so real.
Yeah,
Like I before I heard that, I didn't
yeah.
really know how they did it, to be honest, because it really looked like it was right outside that window.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. And then there's a little scuffle right there, and you see how good George is with his physicality. I think even Peter Hunt was talking about that, like he'd really be struggling, like when the guards are holding him, like he would really be fighting and struggling. And it looks really good on film, like how he's like looks like really a struggle this
Yep.
fight here. And he does the snap mirror from WWF on one of the guys.
He flips the guy over his head, right?
Yeah, yeah, like he
From
grabs
behind.
him by the head and yeah, flips. I like that. I liked it when he did that. Yeah. And then the movie just kind of really picks up from here and accelerates and never slows down. He gets locked into the room, which is from the book, but I think Peter Hunt was saying it was just covered in like one paragraph. But he's stuck in the room of the gondola with all of the gears that wind up the cables, and it appears to be no way out of there. And I think this is a cool, very cool, suspenseful scene. That's like a staple of what you think of with Bond, like getting out of improving and using athletics and wit to get out of a really inescapable situation. And he's doing a lot of climbing around on the gears and the cables. And as the gondola is going back and forth, so he'll be trying to climb across the cable, and then the gondola goes back, and he'll mess up his plan. Like this is really a struggle. I really like this scene and being resourceful. Like he takes his pocket linings out to make gloves so he can crawl on the cable. I just really like the scene. What do you think about this escape scene?
Yeah, it's an excellent escape scene and quite different from most of the others, I think, in the whole series, really, because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
he really has nothing to work with besides the environment.
yeah.
There's no gadgets. We talked about this when we did the best
Hmm.
of series,
Yeah.
how this film doesn't have a ton of gadgets, but
No.
it kind of doesn't need them either.
No. Yeah. And yeah, the I lost my train of thought.
Well, he almost dies, right? Several times
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get out of this
yeah,
room. That's the other thing that really adds
yes,
to the excitement when he finally makes it out.
yeah, yeah.
Because,
It's a really struggle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like when you get through a level on Ninja Turtles or something. Like, oh man, that was a struggle. Like a video game level. I think this movie would be good as a video game. Like something like this is right out of something like Uncharted or something, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Having to use the
Um,
environment to solve
yeah,
puzzles.
yeah, and like crawling around, and then like timed events, like where you have to crawl in the as the cable's moving and the lift is moving back and forth.
Right.
Um, like you're saying, there's not really anything like this. I think this is such a classic Bond moment, but you're right. Like I can't really think of any other moment like this. The only one that I think is close is maybe the mountain climbing scene on For Your Eyes Only. Kind of has this type of pacing and suspense.
Right. Because it's not fast. That's the other thing. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of build up to
yeah,
the climax of this scene.
yeah, yeah. But eventually he does climb out and he ends up falling onto the gondola
Yep.
as it's going up, and then he goes back, takes him back up to the lift, and then he's free. And then we get a couple little cool scuffles. He beats up the one guard, and then he goes down the elevator, and the guard that's usually the receptionist guy that's usually there, um, hears the elevator come down, but no one comes down. And then he walks over there, and then there's another little scuffle. Um,
Yeah, it was pretty clever. Bond rides down in the
yeah,
elevator, but the elevator
yeah,
doors don't open when it gets down to that level, and
yeah,
he like the like you said, the guard at the like who just sits at the desk comes over to
yeah, yeah,
investigate, and Bond just beats him up as soon as he gets opens the elevator, but takes him by
yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, and I guess on the commentary, Peter Hunt said they just added that scene in because it seems appropriate. Like they were just going to have him come down the elevator, but there was always that guard there. So they go, well, we got to do something with the guard. So they just kind of like improv that
Hmm.
as they were filming, which was
Nice.
cool. And then this leads up to, I think this is one of your favorite scenes, right? The ski escape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what do you think of this?
It's one of the best chase scenes I think in the whole series of the films. It's
Yeah,
definitely probably the most exciting scene in this film in terms of a long action sequence, and
yeah,
it's so great too, right? Because finally there's been all this build up. He knows the plot. He's got to escape though to warn England and the world, and
hmm,
the girls are being shuffled onto the gondola the same time
yeah,
he's getting his skis ready to
yeah.
start to ski
All
down the
right.
mountain. So
Oh yeah, as he escaped the gondola, he was sneaking around in the facility, and he was spying on the little brainwashing segment where all the girls are getting their big purple packages, their big presents,
right,
and they're opening them up, and it's like a their little kit. It has a radio and the poison and everything, and he's gonna contact them on this radio in like a trance state when they're in that trance hypnotic state, and he's going to give them instructions on how to distribute this omega virus when they go back to their country. I forgot to mention that. You got a cool, that's kind of like he's sneaking around, he's watching this as it happening. Irma Bunt's there, all the girls are hypnotized and they're opening up their presents before they leave. I forgot to mention that.
yep. And each present is disguised as a makeup case.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's makeup in there for the girls to use, but there's also the transmitter device so that Blofeld can communicate
yeah,
with them, and the Omega virus.
yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, but on to the chase, your favorite spot. Sorry, yeah, I interrupted you, but I had to throw in that.
Sure. No, it's
Yeah,
cool. It's important, right? Because
yeah,
that's what's building up
yeah,
the time. I mean, there's a timetable here. This is he
yeah,
doesn't have a lot of time at this point.
yeah.
So,
And then we get this wonderful ski chase though and I think they have like world class like gold medal championship skier. I think his name was Willie Dogner doing a lot of
hmm
these stunts and he'd ski on one ski
yep.
and all kinds of impressive stuff. And I was happy to see on the Blu-ray this is a lot easier to see
Oh yeah.
than when I saw it on VHS.
It's very clear to see, and there's some other
Mhm.
stunts too where yeah, Bonds loses a ski, like they shoot the ski, one of his skis off, I think, and
Yeah,
he has to do jumps with one ski. Other guys
yeah,
have to do jumps and they land in trees. So,
yeah.
it gets pretty hairy on this chase.
Yeah. So we have this wonderful ski chase, and I think Gruther is leading the pack until Blofeld he puts down the cat and gets his gear on and takes off out there and gets in on the chase, which you couldn't really picture Donald Pleasance doing that. Um, and I guess that was the reason why they got Tully in this was because of the role. Like they thought it wouldn't be it was too physical of a role. Like he's too much of a physical match for Bond, and they that's the reason why they got Telly for this, which is
Mm.
kind of sad. It's kind of sad we didn't get to see Donald Pleasance again, but Tully worked so well for this movie. Um,
Oh yeah. I think
yeah,
if they had done it with Donald Pleasance, they would have had to give him some sort of ski mobile if he was going to be in the
yeah,
chase.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like a ski wheelchair or something.
Right. Yeah, with like a rocket launcher that his cat could use,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Yeah, great stuff. And then we get a couple, all those jumps and everything. Like you said, the guy's running into the trees and doing all the trick jumps and all that stuff that was gonna. It's more foreshadowing. A lot of this stuff is going to happen again later on in other ski chase Bond movies. But this is the original one. This is the first time we ever saw Bond on skis, and it like became a staple after this. Like a lot of times, you just think when you think of Bond, you think of ski chases. And he's got his gear on and everything. Really iconic look for Bond in this. And then he gets into a couple of fist fights too. And I forgot this viewing. He actually tosses two guys off of the cliff that splattered down there.
right. Yep.
That's a long, long drop.
Really good
Yeah,
editing on the
yeah,
sound of the screams
yeah,
as well with the
yeah,
impacts. Like it
yeah,
really looks real, looks and sounds real the way they did it.
yeah. Right. And then before we get to the village, did you have anything else to say about that first initial chase?
Yeah, just in the struggle that he's in, he hits the guy off of his skis or whatever, and then they're fighting right by the cliff, and Bond
Yeah,
gets this guy down, and he's choking him with the ski as a bunch of the other
yeah,
goons are going by, and you can see it in
yeah,
Lazenby's face here, like he just looks like a killer, and
yeah,
he looks very merciless at this point, to a point, but much more like Daniel Craig, I'd say, than
yeah.
Connery, Roger Moore, or Dalton ever
Right.
were. Like he's just so severe in this scene, and I
Yes.
like that. I like that because I think it's appropriate for the
Yeah, me too.
character.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like that too. That was very fitting scene. It was a nice little break from the action. That was a really suspenseful moment there. He's choking the guy and trying not to have him make a lot of noise because the other skiers are looking for him. And then he
yep.
ends up beating him up and throwing him off of the that cliff. My gosh. And it's kind of cool how you could see. I don't know if that was back projection or not, but I like how you could see the village from behind the skier down there. You could see the whole village down there all lit up
And hear
from
the
up on top of the
music.
cliff.
Yeah, the music from the
Yeah,
village
you could
was
hear the
coming up.
music. Yeah, and then and then we get down to the village, and it's even more chaotic down there. And I assume, is this one of those like sets sort of built sort of like the junk canoe from Thunderball?
Yeah,
I didn't really research that too much.
I didn't really research that either, but I would assume so.
Yeah,
But it is also a
yeah,
village, right? So it was pretty much they
yeah,
probably just needed a place that was, set up for celebrating Christmas to film in.
yeah, 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 yeah. It worked really good. It kind of gave me that Thunderball vibe, but when he's escaped, like one of the few times you actually see Bond afraid and he's frantic and like he almost seems like all hope is lost. It
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of Thunderball. Thunderball when he was really tense and he was bleeding and he was running away, and then he ran into the drunk and it scared him.
right.
Kind of similar type scene. He runs into a guy in a bear suit with a camera. I wonder if anyone. I wonder if anyone has the picture of that of the picture that the bear took of George. I wonder if that picture is floating around somewhere.
It's probably on eBay for 10
There's a
grand. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but there's a big with an old school camera with a flash. The guy dressed up like a polar bear. Uh, he bumps into him, and then you see kind of similar to Thunderball. Irma Bunt and all the goons are walking around this village festival, and they're all looking for Bond. It doesn't look like there's a way for him to escape. Oh, and then he goes. I forgot to mention he goes into that room with the bells
Yeah.
that really loud, and I guess that was something Peter Hunt came up with or someone. They found that room with all the cowbells and all the different kind of bells in that little room, and he would bang one, it would make so much noise. He's like, tonight we just have to have a fight. We just have to have a fight in this room. We're gonna make so much noise. But there's that little scuffle, that little brawl inside of the bell room, which was pretty cool. Or it was like a little loft or a little cabin. Yeah,
The sound syncs up perfectly with the film.
yeah, it does. Yeah. And it kind of takes me back to that scene in the locker room earlier, like really loud, like when the lockers were smashing and it was echoing all over.
Right.
They had a
Yep.
lot of really cool stuff. But then we get down to the village itself, and like I said, Bond is like really like looks like he's um frantic, like he looks like there's no way out. And there's a lot of civilians around. It's in the middle of a crowd, but the goons are everywhere and they're blocking every exit. It looks like there's no hope for him. And I think he grabs a jacket for someone's coat or a jacket, and he puts it on, and he sits down and he's hiding, and he's looking at the ice rink and all the ice skates, the ice skates going by, and then you see a set of nice legs slide up and stop in front of him, and he looks up, and who's there?
Tracy,
Yeah,
out of nowhere.
and I love this scene's just so heartwarming to me. It's almost like in life, like when life's beating you down and you're struggling and everything's difficult and you're about to give up, and like maybe you're lonely and you're not and you miss the girl you love. All of a sudden you look up and there's the girl of your dreams and everything's okay now. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
quite a metaphor. Of
Yeah.
course, I don't know if it's really a
Yeah,
metaphor
and
since
then
that's exactly what happened to him.
yeah, it is, yeah. And then she says, and then, I guess I always thought it was like what a coincidence that Tracy's there, but I guess he had been in Switzerland earlier. Remember they were at the Gumball
Right.
offices?
Yep.
But I remember always thinking, man, this is a stretch. Like it makes it seem so like such a miracle that she's there. But I but I forgot her and Draco were in Switzerland, not so I assume she would be in there taking in the sights and all that.
Right.
But it's just so great that he ran into her and she had her Mercury Cougar there ready for the escape.
And she was
And
there because she found out where James was from her father.
yeah, Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's so cool that she was there. She's looking out for him. Although, like, she wasn't in his the forefront of his mind when he was banging all those girls, but she definitely was thinking about him. Uh,
uh,
but then she has her car there. Anyway, she has her car there, and they make the escape in the car. And we actually get to see the girl drive the car and have a cool car chase scene.
yep.
I always thought this was kind of emasculating. Like Bond should be the one driving,
Uh,
but uh, but I mean, like this is Mrs. Bond. Like you got to establish her as a badass, and she was Miss Peel in the Avengers.
yep.
So
So
you gotta like give her moment to shine and see like this is the reason why Bond loves this girl. Like how not only is she beautiful and mysterious, but she's like a badass little girl.
she's very
Um,
resourceful.
yeah, yeah. So they make the cool. I really love this whole section. There hasn't been action like this in a Bond movie ever before this.
Right.
Pardon me.
This whole car chase is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Because the whole thing is on ice, basically.
yeah,
Going through these
yeah,
icy back roads, and the
yeah,
Irma Bunt's chasing them in her Mercedes with a bunch of goons,
yeah,
and eventually
yeah,
they turn off into this race that's happening. This little what was it?
yeah.
It was like
It's
a
like a
little derby
like
race.
a dirt, yeah, a little derby race, yeah, on ice. And I guess that was the set they built. They just froze, like they watered down like a landing pad an airport or something, and iced it out, watered it down and froze it and built that little set. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool though. Yeah, I love stuff like that in Bond movies where the action gets taken into a spot where like it shouldn't be.
Well, and it's all these little cars in this little
Yeah,
derby, right? They're tiny
yeah,
tiny
yeah,
cars, and then
yeah, yeah,
Diana Rigg comes in with her 69 Mercury Cougar and just running them all
yeah,
over, and
yeah,
it just slamming into them. Like it's really
yeah,
hilarious to watch.
yeah. Yeah, then we get Irma Bunce and the other goons. I think was there two cars chasing him or just one? I think it's just one.
I think it's just the one.
Yeah, when they're running over people, they're all like passing up all the cars and running all the poor little cars off the track. But eventually, that cool stunt where the Mercedes um like spirals off and it almost hits the crowd. It looks really cool when it lands on its top.
Yep.
And then it looks like all the goons may die, like including Irma Bunt. They all run away as it's exploding,
Yep.
and you hear Irma say, "Oh!" But you don't know if she died or not.
She definitely got cooked. She got barbecued. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a cool scene. Yeah, one of the other little cars flips over, and the guy keeps like mean mugging them. The poor driver in the
Right.
car. But then they find an escape, and this is like just such fast paced editing, like so many cuts compared to the first half of the movie. Like then they go out into the snow and it's snowing, and like they run out of gas and they find the cabin. Like I think it reminds me of Evil Dead, like one of the little fast cut montages in Evil Dead, like oh
Right.
the oh, we're low on gas. Look, there's a cabin. Like, and then like they push the car in there. It reminded me. I don't know why that always like reminds me of Evil Dead. But then the movie kind of slows down a little bit for the last time, as a nice little romantic spot. They hide the car. There's a big ice snowstorm going on outside. They hide the car in this cabin, or it's a barn.
Yeah, big barn
They
with all
hide
these animals.
a
There's
big
some horses in
yeah
there and
big
other
yeah.
animals.
And then they have a little roll in the hay, like in Goldfinger, or no, but this is a nice little romantic moment where we finally see like this is the love of Bond's life. What do you think of this scene?
Yeah, I love how, again, it's interesting how it's so different from most of the places you see Bond. You mentioned Goldfinger, like that's where he got with Pussy
Yeah,
Galore, was in a barn.
yeah,
But
hmm
typically you think of James Bond being in, five-star hotels, extravagant suites,
yeah,
and
yeah,
very fancy gambling rooms, things like that. And
hmm
here he is in out in the middle of nowhere in a barn with this girl he's going to propose
hmm
to, and it's so I think
yeah,
it's a perfect sort of setting for that because it's so different from what you would have thought. It's so different from the world that he knows
yeah,
and typically operates in, and it makes perfect sense that that's where he would propose to her because that's also something you just don't think of him doing.
yeah. I love it, and yeah, very romantic look and feel to it. They have like that screen glow effect filter or whatever. It's like the Vaseline on the lens or whatever it is. It's
Right.
like a dream glow. Whenever you see uh when you see Tracy's face, it has that wonderful glow. Like it reminds me of an old timey movie or something. It looks so cool.
It does. Yep.
Um, yeah, and he proposes to her, and he has her be Mrs. Bond, but then he sets her up on a different level, like because they can't sleep together. Because my new resolution is to be what do you call it?
To be celibate
What
until
is
they're
that
married,
word?
right?
Yeah, celibate until they're married. That's my New Year's resolution. He sets her up there, and he sits on the level below her, and like, wow, that's very unbond. Like he's changed. But then he like grabs a hook and and knocks her bed out from under her, and she falls on him. Or he says that's my New Year's resolution. but then he knocks the bed out from under, and she falls on him, and he says it's not the new year yet. And then they go at it.
Right. With a tasteful fade to black
Yeah,
for the PG film of the
yeah.
60s.
So then the morning the storm ends and it's the morning time, and then the movie just picks up and it takes off right there like nothing ever stops. Like the Blofeld's men are right there. They found the cabin, and then there's another cool key chase escape scene. What do you think of this?
Yeah, it's pretty intense, right? Because Blofeld
Yeah.
spots them and they're, the goons are going after him. He sends the goons to go get him, but they go down this hill that or well, this giant mountain that is totally iced over,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Blofeld fires off a flare on top of the mountain that start
Yeah.
triggers an avalanche,
Mm-hmm.
even after he sent more men
Mm-hmm.
after him. So, he basically knew
Yeah.
that, he was killing his own men, basically, right? To do this.
Yeah.
And oh, I forgot to mention too. But before that,
Yeah.
though, their Bond and Tracy are still skiing and escaping, and there's a snowblower going through one of the roads, and they have to make this jump across the road, and the snowblower is
Yeah.
below
Yeah.
them, and they both make it, but one of Blofeld's goons falls into the snowblower and gets his guts flown
Yeah.
like thrown out through the air, and Bond says he had lots of guts.
Yeah.
One of those,
That was pretty gross for like a
right?
yeah, yeah.
More painful puns, I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
say, in the series. Yeah.
yeah. That one was yeah, that was pretty graphic for a PG movie back in '69. Like you see like
Yeah.
and that was from the book. That actually happened in the book. I think it said like and then the end of the chapter was like and then the snow turned pink.
Oof.
Um but that was gross. Like you see blood and chunks blowing out of the snow blower. He had lots of guts.
Yep.
And then yeah, and then the whole avalanche that he sets off with a flare. I guess they had planned on watching a what is it called a planned avalanche. Like they every year they do what do you call it a planned avalanche or how do you say it
Mm-hmm.
so skiers or people don't get caught in the avalanche. Like they set one up so all the snow falls so it's all so that people don't have to worry about it after that. I forget what it's called, like a plan set avalanche.
Hmm.
But I guess like it had already happened and they missed it, or something happened, and they weren't able to film that. So I guess all of this avalanche was just stock footage and then special effects, and it looks freaking good.
Yeah, it looks so good. I was
What
gonna
do you think
say,
about the avalanche? Yeah,
because I didn't get to
yeah.
watch that part. I wanted to ask you for
Hmm.
the avalanche part where it actually consumes the skiers. I'm
Hmm.
assuming that was just done with miniatures and like stop motion. Do you know?
Yeah, I think it was all done on sets with snow blowers
Hmm.
and the special effects like overlay like snow. It looks really good though. And then I guess the big shots are just like stock footage of real avalanches that have been captured over the years.
Well, the part that I
I don't
was
know
wondering
exactly.
about was the
Yeah,
really high aerial shots where it shows them. You can see them like specks, right? There's just a few of them skiing,
yeah,
and it shows
yeah,
the snow going over them. And that's what I figured was probably
yeah,
like a miniature type thing, but I wasn't
yeah.
sure.
I'm not sure about on that either. Unless it was just the snow was like overlaid over it, over that
Hmm.
shot. I'm not sure though.
Well, it was
But
very
but
well
I,
done.
yeah. But then poor Tracy gets caught in the snow, but she doesn't die, and Bond gets covered up in the avalanche. And I guess Blofeld seems to think that's the end of Bond, without double checking. But they go get the girl, and his men uncover Tracy and take her captive. And then we get something else, and then we see Bond sees them. Bond gets out of the snow and he sees them take Tracy, and then all of a sudden he's back in his office in MI6 in London, and we get a new first for a Bond movie, a flashback. And that was pretty cool effect how they did it. He's looking out the window um of his office, and in the reflection of the window you see Tracy's body being dragged away, like the
Yep.
footage that you just seen. And I thought
Hmm.
that was really cool effect. Like there's never really been anything like that in a Bond movie, let alone a flashback, but like sort of like a flashback, like edited into the scene. I thought that was pretty cool.
I got a feeling that that was a Peter Hunt, just showing off
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, yeah. And then we get another M scene, and as far as I remember in the book, this is where like all of the leaders all come together and figure out what Blofeld's plan was. I think, and then Draco gets involved somehow, and there is the raid on Peace Gloria. But in this one, like M is telling him we can't go save the girl because it's too risky, and you could have the girls unleash the virus or whatever it was. Or can you explain this scene to me?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. M dismissed an
Yeah,
assault, or he said that it's
yeah,
been deemed too risky, so everyone he
yeah.
he
Deemed
met
too risky.
with
Yeah,
decided not to do an assault
yeah,
on Piz Gloria. And
yeah,
I know M also says that finally what Blofeld was demanding, it wasn't money or anything like that. It like some of the former films have been. It was that he wanted his
hmm,
title recognized as Count, and he wanted
yeah,
a official pardon for all of his former crimes when he retired into
yeah,
private life.
yeah.
So it was a very
He's settling
interesting,
down. Huh?
yeah, right? Yeah, it's like he's settling
Yeah.
down.
But then there's another moment where like Bond, you can see he's irate at M
Hmm.
a couple times in this movie. A couple times in this movie, you really tell he's getting under Bond's skin. But then Bond goes back to his office and Plan B, of course, get Draco's and his organization to lead the assault or to fund the assault on Piz Gloria.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a great pitch too. He just picks up the phone and says,
yeah,
"Draco, are you? I wonder if you'd be interested in a demolition deal that requires installing aerial equipment."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, then we get oh wow, and then we get a really cool scene, probably one of the best finales ever. I know like I said, You Only Live Twice is more of a big, high budget, epic spectacle of a movie. But I think and it has a way more fancy enemies layer. But something about this is my favorite, like Blofeld headquarters, even though it's not as extravagant as the volcano layer.
Right.
Yeah, and then this ending too, as cool as ninjas are, riding bungee cords down, like 50 ninjas going down a volcano to fight henchmen with a Kissy in her bikini and all that. And as cool as the underwater battle was with all the like 50 frogmen versus 50 frogmen with the sharks and everything, and all the harpoons, I think this is probably my favorite ending battle.
Oh, wow.
We get
Interesting.
Drac. I mean, it's not as extravagant, of course, but just like I just really like this one. There's one thing I would have changed. We'll get to that in a little bit. It's just a personal preference, but we get the plan is Draco and his men are flying over Switzerland, and Blofeld's men, they see the flying over. They go, "Who are you? This is restricted airspace. Get out of here!" And then Draco says he's like on a humanitarian effort to save people in a natural disaster.
Yep. The Italian flood disaster.
And yeah, Italian flood disaster, yeah. And finally he tells them that there's press aboard. That's what gets that's what gets every. Oh, but in the meantime, I forgot to mention, in the meantime, we have Tracy captive, but she's kind of taking charge as she's captive. I'm
Yep.
sure Blofeld is familiar with her and who she is, and he knows she's a countess, and he's kind of fallen for her, and she's kind of playing in to distract him from the planes.
Yep.
And it kind of reminded me, like you said, like Super Mario Brothers or something. Like he's Bowser and she's Princess Toadstool. It's not like he wants to marry. He wants to marry her and her to become his countess. It's just, but I'm already a countess.
Right.
And then I guess they brought in another writer for this. What's his name? Simon Raven, to do all. They have some really, really good dialogue that's way over my head. Like they're quoting, quoting like literature.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has some really nice little back and forth, Tracy and Blofeld here. So I think that was cool. She's distracting him from Draco's little air force there.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, she hears Draco's voice,
Yeah,
and then she
she hears his
realizes
voice on.
that, yeah, it's her dad is
Yeah,
on one of these helicopters, and
yeah,
so she figures
hmm
out that they're about to attack the place, so she
yeah,
tries to distract Blofeld by
yeah,
seducing him,
yeah,
which is very easy for her.
yeah. And then the next thing you know, you see like all of the helicopters heading straight for Peace Gloria, and they just like start like raining in with the machine guns, and a Blofeld on them in, like just dive and take cover. And then this is where it really kicks off the last battle. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's awesome, right? They use the James
Yeah,
Bond theme here as when
yeah,
Bond gets off the helicopter, and then it's so funny because they're in the same area
yeah,
that they did the curling with all the ice, and he just goes head
yeah,
first with his machine gun,
yeah,
sliding down this ice,
yeah,
shooting guys, like going in, like it's
yeah,
like a curling ball.
yeah. That was, yeah. I guess that was improv. Like Peter Hunt said, "Oh, it'd be cool if he slid down with a machine gun."
Yeah,
Uh, you kind of see him. I don't know if you noticed, but right when they jump off of the helicopter, you kind of see Bond like he's getting onto like a shop board or a skateboard or something, and he jumps on that and starts sliding. Did you notice that?
I didn't see that part. No, I didn't
The-
notice that. I'll have
Yeah,
to look closer
like
next
right,
time.
right. Yeah, I don't know if I just am I'm seeing things, but it looked like he had some kind of board. Like right, it was like only like a split second. Like Draco and his men and Bond, they all jump out of the helicopter, and then he gets like a board and he goes on top of it and like starts sliding.
Yeah, probably
But
was to
I
make
don't
the
know if
slide go easier, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that was pretty cool. That's the first time we've ever seen Bond with a machine gun, right?
In this film, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember ever having a machine gun before
Did
or
he
shooting,
not?
firing a
Ah,
machine gun.
that's interesting. Maybe he didn't.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. He didn't have one
yeah.
in You Only Live Twice at all?
I don't think so. I think he just had ninja stars and a pistol.
Right? And the Frogman battle was all
Yeah,
harpoons and knives.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, you're
Usually it was
probably
always
right.
his PPK.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
probably right. Goldfinger had a machine
but
gun,
cool.
right? Yeah, I'm thinking of the revolver at the end. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, right, yeah.
yeah. Well,
But
that's interesting.
yeah. But I like how you see all of Draco's heavies in there, like the three guys that were scuffling with Bond at the beginning are all in the battle.
Yep.
And I think, is it the black guy that has the flamethrower? There was a black guy
Yep.
with a flamethrower, like barbecuing. Was that the same? That was the black guy that he fought. Was
Yeah,
that him?
that was him. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that was
As
cool.
far as I
Yeah,
know, I'm
that
I'm pretty
was
sure it's the same guy.
cool. Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's so cool because he uses the flamethrower in this cave of ice, right? That's where
yeah,
he's blowing the
yeah,
flames into this cave that is one of their
yeah. Down
walkways,
that
but it's
cave of
all
ice.
ice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so cool.
yeah.
What's wild
And
though
you
is to think that
you hear that little.
they got out of
Yeah,
that helicopter with a flamethrower. Like this thing is
yeah,
massive. This
yeah,
thing is like huge on the
yeah,
back of this guy.
yeah,
So it's funny to think about just
yeah.
getting it out of the helicopter from the air.
I know. Yeah.
They didn't
I
show
know.
how that
That's
happened, of
hilarious.
course.
Hmm. Yeah, it was so cool though. And then oh, and then he's looking for Blofeld in his laboratory, and this is like such a weird thing to happen. Like we never see this little scientist guy runs up with like a flask full of like acid, and he throws it at Bond, and Bond moves out of the way, and he hits the window next to him, and then Bond shoots that guy with a machine gun, the scientist guy,
Yep.
and then the acid just burns a hole in that glass, and Bond like does a double take at
Yeah.
it.
Pauses to look. That's
That,
hilarious. But
yeah,
before that, when they
yeah, I
break
love that.
in,
Yeah.
Tracy is having to fight off Gunther, right? Because
Oh, yes,
Blofeld's running
yes. How could I
away.
forget that? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the other reason why, this
Yeah.
is Mrs. Bond because she breaks a glass
Yes.
and is like coming at him with this broken
Hmm.
glass and
Yeah.
Gunther's a big guy too. You'd think that he would be able to get her
Yeah.
really easy, but she fights him
Yeah.
so well and
Yeah.
eventually actually, is able to subdue him and
Yeah.
she throws him into the
Yeah.
wall right at the end when they're struggling, right? Like like is able to like
Yeah.
throw him into the wall and there's all these spikes. I guess they're designer
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
fancy art piece or something.
Like,
But then Gunther
yes,
takes it in
yes,
the
with
back and
spikes. Yeah.
dies, yeah,
Yeah.
because she threw him into it.
I love it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember when I watching this movie the first time, I was seeing those spikes back there, that little art piece on the wall. I go, oh, someone's gonna get stabbed with those little
Right.
spikes. And I think and seeing that those the handrail or the walls on the staircase had those weird little, like the bars had those weird circles in them, like the size of a human head. And I go, wow, wouldn't Gunther's head look good in the middle of one of those? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then she does. Yeah, then she swings him into that art piece at the end. Right as the Bond movie, the Bond theme is playing during all of this. I forgot to mention,
Yep.
and right when it climaxes, that last little major minor ninth chord at the end of a Bond song, the bring, like right when that is in the song, is when he gets stuck on that art piece. They're playing the James Bond theme, the original one from Doctor No, over this whole theme, or over this whole scene. And I love that song, of course, but I kind of wish they would have used like either the Majesty's theme or
Yeah.
like a new synthesized version of the Bond theme, like they used at the end of the movie. I kind of
Right.
that's what, if I would have changed something, I would have liked to have had like the newer version of it, or like the Majesty's theme during this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would have been cool. They used the Majesty's theme, of course, for the ski chase, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was, very well, well done. Like it was a good That's another reason why that's one of my favorite chase scenes, because you get the Majesty's music.
Yeah, we forgot. We forgot to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it would have been very cool if there was another synthesizer, or a synthesizer version of the original theme would have been really cool.
Yeah. I'm glad they were able to squeeze in the Bond theme, though. And in pretty much every movie, they squeezed it in at one point.
Right.
Other than Goldfinger. Goldfinger, I don't think, had it. But they were able to squeeze it in. So I'm glad we got to hear it for one last time.
Yep.
But other than that, yeah. And then we get a little shootout in Blofeld's laboratory. Then it goes back to some of the newer John Barry stuff with the synthesizers. Like it goes to like the newer original stuff with when Blofeld comes down, they're shooting at each other with machine guns in the lab.
Yep.
And then I think this is where he goes and he takes pictures of all of the girls and shows what country they're from so they know where they are. Is that what that's supposed to imply?
Yeah,
that he's taking pictures.
He finds the map on the wall, and actually, this is we forgot to mention when Bond is first in that room before, like when he is woken up after what's her name knocks him out, or I guess it's Gunther knocked him out, right? When he was in Ruby's room. Yeah. When he wakes up and sees the Christmas tree in this room, the first thing he sees is this panel going down on the wall. He can't see what's under it because it's so quick, because he's just coming to. But he knows that there's a something hidden under that panel, like from that moment.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you're right.
So that's how.
Good observation.
When he gets back here now, that's why he starts looking around on that shelf trying to find a switch to open it, and eventually finds it, and can see the map of the whole world, and he starts taking photos of every location of the Angels of Death.
Yeah.
And then Blofeld opens fire at him, though. Blofeld's got a pistol, and he starts shooting at him. So and Bond turns and shoots at him with the machine gun and starts the next chase. Yeah,
which goes through the laboratory, through all the icicles, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then it ends up outside, and then Draco and his men are planting a bomb there. And the one goon's all, what about the Englishman? He says, "Oh, we got to get out." Or what does Draco say?
Oh, well, it's the Draco's main guy says, what, 2 minutes and exactly 5 minutes, or 2 minutes or something. I forget what the time frame is, but some other guy asks, will that be enough time for the Englishman to get out? And Draco just says he knows the schedule.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, then they set the bomb to blow up his facility, and of course Tracy wants to stay there. Where's James? I have to find James.
Right, they're out at the helicopter. She's freaking out at the helicopter because she hasn't seen James yet. Draco walks up to her and he's like, he's coming, whatever. Tracy's like, I will not leave without him. You have to. And he has to knock out his own daughter because she just won't stop trying to get away. And then they're loading her on, and he says, spare the rod and spoil the child, huh? And it's so funny, right? Because this is the counterbalance to everything he's been before, right? He talked about earlier in the film how he gave her everything, and it brought her nothing but misery, right? Because he spoiled her so much throughout life. So this is a redemption arc, sort of, for his character. Of
right. Oh, that
he's finally said no to his daughter, to save her life, basically. But still, this is the first time he's ever said no to her.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. But then we get, as the building explodes, Blofeld and Bond just narrowly escape. They jump out of the building, and then I guess that's a miniature blowing up, and it looks pretty authentic. It looks just like the real thing. The miniature of His Gloria blows up.
Yeah, so good. The animation on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that's not the end. We still got to catch Blofeld. Blofeld runs away. He runs over that little ice bridge that breaks. That was pretty cool, huh?
Yep.
that little snow bridge that breaks right as he runs over it. I don't
Bond's
know.
got to
Was that a stunt man? Yeah,
probably, and Bond's got to jump
yeah,
that. He has to jump that and just
yeah.
catch the
Yeah.
ledge.
So then and then Bond jumps over it. Yeah, and then we get something a really cool, intense, probably highly choreographed, intricate stunt fight scene / chase scene right here on bobsleds.
Right?
I wonder if there'd ever been a bobsled chase in a movie ever before.
This might have been the
Yeah,
first.
and
I
there
wouldn't
was
be
a
surprised.
yeah, and it was out of the book. He did escape on a bobsled at the end.
Oh,
It didn't go
nice.
down exactly like this, but there was. But then we get a cool chase. Bond gets a bobsled to chase him. There's two bobsleds going down this bobsled course. A really cool scene, really intense. Like he's throwing grenades at Bond. They're shooting at each other. What do you think of this scene?
Oh, it's again, it's so over the top, so ridiculous,
Yeah.
but it's such an exciting
Mm-hmm.
and I think it really starts with
Mm-hmm.
that bridge chase, like you said, when the ice bridge falls, Bond
Yeah.
has to jump that
Mm-hmm.
ledge. You don't see it very long. They cut very quick here because they're trying to build the
Yeah.
tension, I think. But
Yeah.
it is a huge ledge that he's hanging to there on
Yeah.
the ice. Like if he had
Yeah.
fallen, he was definitely gonna die there. So
Yeah.
you have to do some double takes or pause the video for that section to really see it.
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah.
moment that I think is kind of lost because they edited it. They did it such a quick sequence there,
Yeah.
and it wanted to get them on the
Yeah.
bobsleds really quick to
Yeah.
maintain the pace of the chase.
Excellent. And then one of their grenades ends up with Bond losing his bobsled. And I don't know if that's the moment, but I guess there was a crash during the movie where a guy fell off the bobsled. So I think they rewrote the rest
Ooh,
of the scene to where Bond had to go on foot. I'm just assuming that because at one scene there was a guy fell off a bobsled and they used it in the film.
wow.
Um, and, but that was but he fell off the bobsled and then
For
he's
the
on foot, but
grenade?
he runs down and
Are you talking about
yeah,
the grenade section? The grenade
yeah,
goes
yeah,
off and
yeah.
then
When
yeah,
Bond,
he
yeah,
jumps.
and then yeah, Bond loses his bobsled, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then he gets on foot and runs over and catches them again, or jumps on. That was pretty cool. You
Yeah,
wouldn't expect that to
it
happen.
was amazing.
He runs and he catches. So now there's two guys on one bobsled fighting.
Yep. Well, Bond's being dragged at
Yeah,
first, right? Like he just catches the end of Blofeld's
yeah,
sled.
yes,
He's
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
he's gotta
yes,
pull himself up onto the sled to be able to fight
yeah,
him after
yeah,
Blofeld's been tossing all these grenades at him this whole time.
yeah,
And yeah, so then
yeah,
they have this really intense fist fight on the bobsled without
uh-huh,
flipping it somehow,
yeah,
right? Blofeld gets on top of
yeah.
Bond at one point. He's throwing his head into the side of the sled
Yeah, that was
run.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yes, I love that sound too. Like you see his head like
Hmm.
his helmet scraping against the ice, and you hear the sound like
Yep.
it's so intense. Yeah,
And again, the sound editing was great. Really synced up with
yeah,
that well. And
yeah,
yeah, but the through the course of the fight, Blofeld's on top of Bond, sort of beating him and stuff, but he stands up too
yeah,
tall and gets caught. His neck gets caught in a
yeah,
tree limb, and you just see him hanging there with
yeah,
his eyes closed. And Bond
yeah,
says, of course, "Oh, he's branched off."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Before the sled wrecks and sends him flying, down the
yeah,
mountain side
yeah,
where what is it? Saint Bernard? Is that the dog that comes up to
yeah,
him? Yeah, this
yeah. So,
giant
yeah,
Saint
so we got
Bernard comes out of
yeah,
nowhere and just starts licking, Lazenby on his face and he's like, "Oh, never mind
yeah.
that. Go and get the brandy."
Yeah, I guess that was all. I guess that was all improv. They didn't know what the dog was gonna do, and that was just the first take improv. That whole scene that was pretty cute.
That's awesome. That's perfect, right?
We got we got old Bernard Lee in this,
Yep.
and we got the guy that plays Campbell. His name is Bernard Horsefall, and then we got a real Saint Bernard.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, they were all great.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a cool. Yeah, I remember watching this movie a couple of years ago. Like, and we were just talking about Mad Max Fury Road. My mom's birthday last year, we watched. We had dinner and dessert and everything, and we watched Mad Max Fury Road, and it was a big hit. Like, we all loved it.
Nice.
And then and this was on after that. We watched this. I was like, hell yeah, Bond movie's on. And we had fun watching this. And I guess my parents had never seen it before, and they really got a kick out of it. And I remember my stepdad said at the end of the movies, "Oh, this movie was so corny." I'm like, wow, this is like the least corny.
Right?
I guess it is pretty corny. Like, if you watch that last half hour, like, just so much stuff is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot in that
Yeah.
last half hour. But the other thing is,
Yeah.
like, if you just watched Mad Max Fury Road,
Yeah.
you got to really suspend belief to watch that movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
And I love that film. Don't get me wrong. I
Oh,
just,
heck yeah.
yeah,
Oh no, I love that too. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great movie, but it's, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily think this was a super corny movie compared to it.
Yeah, compared to that, yeah, yeah. I don't know. My stepdad's weird. Like, he's like a millennial, or he just likes
Yeah.
whatever's out. He's not like me, or he's not like me, where I'm stuck in the past. Like, he just likes whatever the current thing is.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
you. Yeah. That's funny.
No, but we all enjoyed it, and I think after that, License to Kill was on, and like that went over well with everyone too.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good,
Yeah, okay, but
that's a
getting
good
off-
pair to watch, really, because
Yeah.
License to Kill
Yeah.
is in many ways the movie that I wish Diamonds Are Forever had been. Following this
Yeah,
one,
something like that. Yeah.
because of what we'll get into here
Yeah.
at the end. Because the next scene
Yeah.
is Bond and Tracy's
Yeah.
wedding. It cuts right to him
Yes.
putting the ring on her finger, and the
Yes.
minister priest finishing the
Yeah.
wedding.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we never thought it would happen. And I remember this is one of the later Bond movies I ever saw. Like, wow, Bond got married. Like, how does Bond get married? Like, because I didn't realize it came from the source material, the novels and all that. This is one of the later movies I saw as a kid. It's like,
Right.
wow, he is actually getting married. Wow. And you see Moneypenny there, and she has a tear in her eye. And Q is there, and M is getting on well with Draco, which is ironic.
Right.
Yeah. And you got all of the goons there, the first goons he fought that he almost killed at the beginning. They're all there clapping and all happy. And Tracy's there with a tear in her eye and all beautiful up, all the flowers everywhere. This movie is heavy on the flowers. I think like Tracy's theme is flowers. There's a lot of flowers associated with her.
Even her dress,
like he leaves the rose.
is like that.
Yeah,
right?
her dress.
It's got like little
Yeah,
flowers cut out of it.
yeah. So many flowers. Yeah. We get to see. It almost feels like the closing of the Bond series. Like, if I had seen this at the time, I would think, "Wow, this is it."
Yeah.
He's moving on to be a husband, and talking about having 9 kids.
Right.
But you got to talk about that Q scene first. When
Yeah.
he's about to leave, and he sees Moneypenny, and she's crying, and then he looks at her and he throws her his hat, like, for old time's sake. So always the hat throwing, and she
Yep.
catches the hat, and here comes Q.
Right next to him.
What?
And he grabs the hat
Yeah.
from Moneypenny and says, 007 never had any respect for government property.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. And then they drive off, they drive off with all the flowers and everything. And when I was a kid and I first saw this movie, it was on television, and the movie stopped right here. Like, that was it. So I just thought, okay, Bond's married. It's over.
Wow.
They didn't. I don't know. Maybe they edited that out on television in some places.
Mhm.
I don't know, because I didn't find out about this until later. But then we got them driving off, and then he stops to take some of the flowers off,
Mm-hmm.
and he gives them to her, and they're having their cute little banter. and she's happy that she's has which she never thought she would have a future, but she has one now.
Yep.
Um, Anything else before we get to the tragic moment?
Well, he stopped because he said, well, these other people passed him, I guess, from the
Oh
wedding
yes, yes,
party, and they were
yeah,
honking and saying,
yeah.
what did they say? It was something about flowers.
Something about the flowers, and he says, "You're right. We do look like a driving advertisement for a
Yeah.
floral or a flower shop." Or uh,
Yeah, and then he says, I forgot, that reminds me, I
uh,
forgot to get you flowers. So he pulls over and starts taking
yeah,
some of
that's
the
what it was.
flowers
Yeah,
off of
that's
the
what.
car. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah. And then did they get? Yeah, and then that's when it happens, right? We
Yep.
see a car drive by, and then who's driving it? Blofeld with his neck brace on.
Yep.
I guess he survived his incident on the bobsled with a broken neck. And who's in the back? Irma Bunt with a machine gun. She fires at them as they're pulled over on the side of the road. A drive-by shooting. They drive off, and then they seem to it seems to hit the car, but it doesn't seem to hit anyone. And then Bond's outside the car, and he's all about business. Like when something like this happens, Blofeld, it's Blofeld, and you think, oh, here's going to be a car chase. But when you get inside, Tracy's not moving, and you see a bullet hole right in her head. And this
Yep.
is like one of this part that tugs at my heartstrings right here.
Yep. It's so sad. He
Yeah,
gets, I mean, he's back in the car and he kisses her and a cop pulls up right next to him
yeah,
on a motorcycle and he looks up
yeah,
and says like
yeah,
it's fine, she's just having a rest because we have all the time in the world.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he embraces her, and then that's it. That's the end of the movie. It just goes to the cool synthesized version of the Bond theme. Well,
Yep.
it's just showing the bullet hole in the car windshield there on the Aston Martin windshield.
Hmm.
Yeah, very sad.
I like your
But yeah, like I said,
version.
this is
I,
probably the
I like your version better, Tylord, where it ends like right before that.
yeah,
The
yeah, I know,
TV
yeah.
version.
Wow, yeah, wow. And then I just assumed, oh, maybe he just got a divorce because all of a sudden he doesn't have a wife anymore,
Yeah.
or maybe his wife doesn't care. uh,
No, I think Tracy
but
definitely would have
yeah,
cared.
yeah, she would have. Yeah,
Yep.
wow, yeah. And we're talking about George's performance, like not being an actor. Like this is probably one of like the most well acted moments.
Oh yeah.
I guess he had been reading the novel to prepare for this. He read the passage in the novel to
Hmm.
prepare for this moment, and the first take of this, he actually had tears coming out of his eyes.
Oh wow.
But Peter Hunt, bless his heart, said, "No, no, we got to do it again. James Bond doesn't cry."
Stiff upper lip and all that.
Yeah, but you kind of do hear him kind of sobbing a bit when he puts his head down into her at the very
Hmm.
end.
Right.
Um, yeah, but probably one of the most. I think this is the saddest moment for me in all Bond movies. Like I said, the part before I get kind of teary eyed when Bond gives Domino her brother's belongings and tells him he's dead. But I
Right.
think this surpasses that even more. This is like the saddest moment
Hmm.
of by far.
Oh yeah. No, I
Yeah,
agree. And it's sort of I
yeah,
sort of agree with Peter. I don't think he even needed to cry. I think it's better
yeah,
this way because it's like he can't
yes,
because of the shock. Like it makes more sense.
yeah,
Like he's just in total shock.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
I don't think the full emotion would hit until later.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
it's
boy,
super
if
well
the
done. Like you said, his acting was so good for
yeah,
having basically no experience
yeah,
before. I know
yeah,
some people didn't like working with him because of that, but I
yeah.
feel like what they got on film was just amazing.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. Like I said, it's something new. He has a little bit. It's not exactly Connery, but just so much of his mannerisms and just the way like he moves his eyes and the way the way he responds to stuff like through facial emotions is a lot of Sean Connery. Like they did a good job.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you want to replace a guy with if you want to replace Sean Connery with a guy, this guy's perfect. It's not just because he's a good con man and all that. Like they picked the perfect guy.
Right? Not just
Yeah,
because he looked
because
good in Connery's suits.
yeah, 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 yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, sad ending to a great movie. Um, so what about? I know this is your favorite movie. You've made that clear since our first episode.
Right.
So I know this was your favorite movie, but has your opinion of it changed after this most recent viewing, or is it still about the same? Or
I'd say it's just it's about the same, really. It certainly hasn't moved in ranking for me. The Blu-ray was great. The restoration was great. Like you said, I think it made it
all
easier to see
right,
some of the darker
yeah,
scenes in the film. So they did a really great job with the
mm-hmm,
restoration. And it's again, I just wish we could have had more, right? Like, and every time I see it, I wish I could have seen part two of this done up, properly, like
yeah.
a License to Kill type sequel.
As much as I love, we'll get to that next time. Diamonds Are Forever, one of my favorite movies. As much as I love that movie, the way it is, um, how cool would it have been? Like you said, a License to Kill style movie, which almost, I guess, could have happened almost because Timothy almost got the role for this and Diamonds Are Forever, right? So he
Yeah,
probably could have brought,
he could have
he
probably done
probably
it,
could have,
right? If he had wanted to do it, he probably
yeah,
could have even done this movie.
yeah. So they probably could have brought that harder edged Bond in during Diamonds, but it would have been so cool if they kind of combined "You Only Live Twice" with "Diamonds Are Forever" novel for the
Oh
next
yeah,
one. If George and Tully had come back, they could have incorporated the "Diamonds Are Forever" plot, but
right,
then find out this guy Willard White, or he could have a fake name. And then like Bond's out on a mission. He doesn't know anything about Blofeld, and he's kind of down in the dumps, and he doesn't he's just but then he finds out this guy is actually Blofeld, so then like he's out to get this guy, kind of like
right.
in You Only Live Twice the novel.
Oh, it would have been
How
so
cool would
easy
that
to
have
do
been?
too, like with that sort of plot, and
Yeah,
Bond finds that out, but for
yeah,
whatever reason, like M orders him to
uh-huh,
stand down or something, and like they're trying to do some sort of
yeah,
entrapment or something, but Bond doesn't care, so he calls Draco,
yeah,
and Draco and Bond go after him together, that sort
yeah,
of thing. That would have been awesome.
yeah. Oh heck yeah, especially in that Vegas setting, that would have been so cool.
Mm-hmm.
They could even had, you know what they could have even have done, the oil rig with, like, think about, like, if Draco and his men, it could have been
Yep.
like a
Another,
throwback to
no,
Honor Majesty's Draco and his men
right.
coming in. Yeah,
Another assault. Yeah, that one could have
yeah,
been by sea.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking if the movie, we're getting into our fantasy movie
Right.
talk again, but it would have been cool if they could have brought the Castle of Death or the Garden of Death into Diamonds Are Forever somehow. Like it
Oh
didn't have to
yeah.
be in Japan. They could have had it like in California or Mexico or something.
Right.
That would have been cool. Like
Absolutely.
Blofeld had a kick. I guess it worked. I guess that works better for Japan because of the whole suicide thing. But
Right.
something similar to that would have been cool in Diamonds Are Forever. And
But it
Diamonds Are Forever had so many cool. Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we did get Jill St. John, so that was pretty great for Diamonds, right?
Yes.
Like as a
Yeah.
as a
Oh, I
female
love that.
lead.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I love.
I certainly would have still
Oh,
cast
I love
her.
her. Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. And she was pretty interesting in the novel. That character, like they had kind of a cool little relationship, Bond and Tiffany Case.
I mean, she's really
The
fun too as a character, right? Like for as
Yeah.
Bond girls go,
Yeah,
she's
she
like
is.
one of the more
Yeah.
bubbly, more fun kind of
Yeah.
characters. It's actually kind of
Yes.
would have helped take
Yes.
the edge off of a more License to Kill movie if,
Yes.
having her
Yes.
in it, as a
Yes.
character. And also,
I
not
agree.
just her, but what's her name from the casino? Plenty O'Toole.
Cynthia.
as well.
Yes, yeah.
That would have been a good
Her too.
balance.
Yeah, she's kind of. Yeah, I always think of her. She's kind of like the American version of Ruby.
Right. Yeah,
They're
yeah, very
both kind of
much.
like like silly bubbly country girls. Or what.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, that would have been an awesome film. Could you imagine it if it had been
yeah,
Dalton like doing that? That would have been really
yeah.
good too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I
then
guess he
if that
felt
had
he was too
happened,
young. Yeah,
we would have never gotten Roger Moore. So,
yeah,
more than likely,
yeah.
right?
A lot of things. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I can't have that. But I was thinking if George had played his cards right, they probably would have never had. Probably never would have even had Roger Moore. He probably could have done
Oh
all of
yeah.
those.
Mm-hmm. And I do love the
Yeah,
idea, I have to say, Live and Let
yeah,
Die is my favorite Roger Moore
yeah.
film, but
Oh yes, I love
I
it.
love the idea of a Lazenby, lead in Live and Let Die. That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have really like boosted his career right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, hey, we're gonna do
yeah,
Diamonds next, and I know it's
yes,
one
and then
you love. It's definitely an underrated
yeah,
film in the series,
yeah,
so
yeah.
looking forward to that
It's
too.
yeah, I kind of wish there would be. We need another Diamonds Are Forever at this point. Like
Yes,
as
I
dark
agree.
as dark as the end of Majesty's was, it wasn't really that dark of a movie, although it was getting into a more serious, darker moment. But then it was kind of nice, refreshing, like silly, nonchalant, campy Bond is back in Diamonds Are Forever, and that's what we need right now, I think.
Right. No, I
But
agree because
I don't think it's
all of the Craig
uh,
films were so dark, right? Like all of them,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's fun. Like I certainly enjoyed that series,
hmm,
or at least
yes.
most of it, and um, you know, but I totally agree. I think they went so super serious. I like
Hmm,
watching the Brosnan films sometimes just to because it's more
yeah,
well balanced. I think like there's
yeah,
humor, there's way more humor, and there's the action's still great.
yeah.
They're still
I know.
modern films.
Yeah.
So they're very entertaining. But yeah, I wish we could go back to that a little bit because I
Hmm.
don't feel like James Bond has to be like the Bourne Identity, like that's serious
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And I feel like they were trying to go for like Dark Knight too. Like,
Yeah, like more like Batman, kind of.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is cool. Like those are awesome things to emulate. As Bond movies have always done that. They've
sure.
always like incorporated what's going on at the time. The big movie franchises, they incorporate that into the movie. But I'm just ready for it to get back to campiness. Maybe with this new Deadpool movie, like it's so campy and funny, maybe there is going to be a shift in movies, like to be more fun again.
Right.
I don't,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, make movies fun again. That's something that would
yeah,
be, I'd like Hollywood to hear.
yeah.
For sure.
Anyway, kind of getting off the subject, but this was a pleasure. Anything
Yes.
else you want to talk about? Anything we missed you want to talk about? I know you could talk about this for hours, movie,
Right.
but
I really could. I could go on about this one
mhm,
and everything about it so much, but I think what I'll just say
yeah.
to end it on is like if you haven't seen this movie, but you like the James Bond movies, like you really need to watch this movie at some point. No, it's none of the famous
Mhm.
actors
Right.
playing Bond, but it's so good. The plot is so good. The music,
Mhm.
the women, everything about this movie is top tier.
Mhm.
And especially if you like older films. Like if you like older
Mhm.
films, noir films, things like that from the 50s and just
Yes.
high production Hollywood, you will appreciate this movie. I think there's probably no way that
Absolutely.
you wouldn't, because so much went
Yeah.
into the production of this film, and it's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yes. Absolutely. It almost even has that grindhouse exploitation feel in some ways. Like this movie is just just really nails it for me in all respects.
It has a little bit of everything. It
Yeah,
really does. Everything from
yeah,
comedy, action, tragedy,
hmm
all of it together.
hmm
You know, romance.
yeah,
It's an amazing movie, and more sophisticated, really, in my opinion, than most of the other films in the series for that reason, because there are
yeah,
all these different elements going on that are covered in this movie. All these different genres are
yes.
touched on.
So if you could sit through a Wubs and I talking about this for 3 hours, and you definitely got to you owe it to yourself to watch this movie. It's about 2 hours or a little bit more than 2 hours. It's the longest Bond movie at the time, right? Or is it
Yeah,
the second longest?
I believe so.
Yeah,
It's still one of
yeah,
the longest, I think.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
if not the long, I don't know. Maybe it was No Time to Die longer. It probably
hmm
was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, probably a
Yeah.
couple of the Daniel Craig ones.
But
Yeah.
the other thing is, if you're a Daniel Craig fan and you haven't seen these older films, this is an excellent one to
hmm
start with because
Yes.
it establishes so much of the character, and
hmm
also if you watch No Time to Die, they used music from Majesty's
Yes.
in No Time to
Yeah.
Die. They repurposed it.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
because it does have deal with a lot of the same themes and overtones of
Yes.
death,
Yeah.
so that they are kind of related for that reason. And that I
Yeah.
believe, Tyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's the only time that a main theme or one of the main themes of a Bond
Yes.
film has been used in another
Yes.
Bond film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not only you could hear the Honor Majesty Secret Service theme playing at one point in the movie, you could hear it in the score being played.
Yep.
And I don't think that's ever happened before, unless you count the James Bond theme. That doesn't count.
Right.
Um, and then you actually get the Louis Armstrong song weaved into the score at one point, and then at the end of the movie, they actually play the Louis Armstrong song, which was
Right.
already in Honor Majesty's Secret Service. So that's never happened before. And
Hmm.
boy, being at the theater watching that, as much as I didn't agree with the ending, like just hearing that Louis Armstrong, like wow, I'm at the theater watching a Bond movie and they're playing that Louis Armstrong John Barry song, like warm my heart.
Right. Mine
Yeah,
too. I watched it on,
yeah,
streaming, but and
yeah,
I felt the same way about that movie. I have very mixed feelings about that movie, but I
yeah,
definitely really appreciated the music
yeah.
callback.
hmm Yeah.
So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate,
Oh,
we did a more of a scene by scene analysis for this
yes,
episode. And thank you for everybody
yes,
who stuck with us through it, and I hope you
yes,
enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed making it.
yeah.
Uh, I do want to give a quick shout out to a person I met on YouTube, who is going to be doing hopefully some music for us in the future. I just want to give a quick shout out to Katja Savia. She is a Finnish indie artist on YouTube who covers a lot of music from film and video games. I'm going to be using some of her music in an upcoming episode of my top five for a game that she covered. And she has a bunch of songs that you'll probably enjoy if you like our show. And especially check out her Bond music. We'll link to that below. She's done a few covers of James Bond songs that are great. I really loved her cover of the GoldenEye theme by Tina Turner. So, Katja, thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing all of your new music. Everybody, check out her channel when you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Webb's turned me on to Katya, and there's a lot to like about her channel. It's was such an amazing artist. Like you said, she has the GoldenEye cover, which is fantastic. Hopefully, in the future, we might be able to hear some more Bond related stuff from her.
That's right.
And also the Katie Lang song "Surrender." She has a wonderful. I love that song. She has a wonderful cover on that.
Right.
But I know a lot. Yep, I know a lot of the viewers here are not Bond fans. They just watch it because they like Wubs and Tylord. But check out Katya's other music. so many video game covers, and they're amazing. Like, you can't imagine some of these songs come from video games. He covers them so well. Great stuff, though. Yeah. Shout out to Katja, indeed.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful voice. She plays piano, and
Yeah.
her music videos
Yeah.
are great. The production value is great. The people she's working with do a really good job on her videos too. So check out the videos. Don't just listen to the music as well. The videos are really fun.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Tylord?
Yeah.
Is there anything we missed?
I don't think so. Well, I'm sure we missed a lot that we could talk another 4 hours about, but I think we did a pretty good job. Like you said, that's our new format. We haven't actually gone scene for scene with movie before, and I think we did pretty well because I don't really have like a script of it on me. I think we both know the movies pretty well, where we could walk through it a scene for scene. I think we did pretty good, and we didn't take too long.
Right.
So let us know let us know if you'd rather us do this with every movie or go back to our old format where we just highlight certain aspects of the movie. Either way, I love it. But we had to do this with this movie. This is like such a high point in the series. We had to do it with this one.
Right.
But yeah. So I guess we're done with this. We're going to go, in my book, it's another high point. Next episode will be Diamonds Are Forever.
Yep.
I guess we'll see you then.
Yep.
Anything else, Wubs? You got anything else? Want to talk about anything else?
You expect me to talk more?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.